Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, unfortunately, we received some sad news recently.
We did.
The great Val Kilmer has passed away. And so when that happened, we wanted to do a movie as sort of a tribute to him, as we have done a few times before, most recently with Gene Hackman when we did Crimson Tide.
And we did recently do a Val Kilmer movie.
Yes, we did. We did Top Secret.
Not specifically because of Val Kilmer.
No, we did Top Secret recently, and that was just a few weeks ago, and we figured that, it doesn't hurt to do another Val Kilmer movie.
No, and we had plenty to choose from.
Yes, we did. And so we ended up settling on one that I don't think was either of our first thought to do, but I think it's the perfect one to do for him.
I would agree, especially after we watched this.
Yes. So what movie is that, Tony?
That movie is the 1995 Joel Schumacher classic, Batman Forever.
Yes. Val Kilmer's turn at Batman.
Like last week, we started Daniel Craig's turn at Batman. And this time we have Val Kilmer's one and only turn as Batman.
Well, Daniel Craig never played Batman. He was Bond.
He never did. Did I say Batman?
Yes,
I did say Batman.
You did. It's okay, though. You got Batman on the brain.
Hey, maybe he played Batman. Maybe he
should play Batman.
Yeah. He'd be a blonde Batman.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a blonde Batman.
Yeah. Bond man.
Bond. They both have crazy gadgets.
Yes, they do. They're really not that far apart. They're both rich.
There's always a girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's funny because, like, when you take a look at this run of Batman, starting with the 1989 Batman up through Batman and Robin, you had 4 different love interests for Batman.
Yep.
They don't die, but
no,
Bond's love interest.
No, they don't. I mean,
similar.
Not all of Bond's love interests die.
Yeah.
Just a lot of them. But, I mean, they also both drive cool cars.
They both drive cool cars, yes. However, Bond globetrots. I mean, Bruce Wayne does some globetrotting. And I guess once he got to Batman Incorporated with Grant Morrison's run, you get kind of the globetrotting Batman.
Yep.
But they're not originally, obviously. No. So, and they both started as literary characters.
Yeah, and they're both orphans.
Right. Yes. And both lend themselves well to having multiple actors portray them.
Yes, they do.
It's always the next point of discussion. Who is the next Batman? Who's the next Bond?
Yep.
And there's always debates. And this was Val Kilmer's turn.
Yes, it was.
At this time was kind of at the height of his powers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And
we discussed how Top Secret, his debut, which was, 11 years earlier than this.
Mm-hmm.
And, he had Top Gun, but that was really a Tom Cruise vehicle. Not that Val Kilmer was an afterthought for that movie. He had The Doors and Willow, which is kind of one of the ones when we first discussed this. I thought, Willow would be an interesting one because it's a movie that kind of gets forgotten.
I thought
it's directed by Ron Howard. So that was one of the first movies that came to my mind when we were discussing this.
Yeah, me too. It was, Willow. But then another one that came to my mind was The Saint.
Yes.
I mean, both of us, I think Tombstone came to mind, but neither of us were really on board with doing that for his tribute episode. Not that he doesn't do a fantastic job in it, because he does.
He does.
But it's sort of more of an ensemble starring cast, so he doesn't have the spotlight for the majority of the movie.
It's kind of the same problem with Heat. Because Heat's obviously one of the first movies, I shouldn't say obviously, but for me, is one of the first movies that I think of for Val Kilmer. And especially with his performance with the bank robbery and that shootout, and he's amazing in that part of the movie. But that's really the Robert De Niro, Al Pacino show, and it has this large, sprawling ensemble cast.
Yeah,
and he's like the next biggest role in it, but they're the focus there.
Yeah,
I think we need something where he was the main focus, and so it is perfect that here he is. He gets one of the most recognizable characters in both print and in screen. And so why not? Even if unfairly the movie has been maligned.
Yes. And that's another reason why we wanted to do it, because we want to bring attention to it, because it has been unfairly tainted by what came after it with Batman and Robin.
Right. No, but that's the thing. Batman and Robin really did kind of unfairly taint it, because that, just quite frankly, is not a very good movie.
It is really not.
And so bad it took a while for them to go back and do a Batman movie, which was Batman Begins.
Yeah.
And sadly, because this has a similar tone in certain respects, he kind of got lumped in with kind of the stench of Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And there are flaws of Batman Forever. I'm not saying that there's a perfect movie. And we can discuss some of the flaws. It did introduced the nipples.
It did, but there's also reasoning behind that. Between why there are nipples on the batsuit. Because Schumacher was designing it after the ancient Greek and Roman breastplates.
He was.
And those had nipples.
Schumacher is a very visual director, and we'll discuss very shortly, I think, some of the huge strengths of this movie, particularly the visuals of it. And I think just for a while, it's been more recently that Val Kilmer has come back into appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that is Tombstone. Part of that was Top Gun Maverick. I know Tombstone's an older movie, but I think it's a movie that's kind of hung around,
it's sort of had
re-emerged as a favorite movie. And because of that, it's helped people re-appreciate Val Kilmer. So I would say probably the last decade or so, he's become more appreciated again, but Batman Forever has not caught up with that yet.
No, it hasn't, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, part of it might also be because we've had some great Batman movies.
Yes, we have. And I mean... Batman Forever, I mean, it tries... So you had the Tim Burton ones, right? Batman and Batman Returns. Those are, dark, very Burton. They're very Tim Burton-esque. And then Schumacher comes around with Batman Forever, and he inserted some of the camp from the 66 TV show.
A lot of the 60s stuff in it, yes.
So still trying to keep some of that darker tone from the Burton ones, but adding some of that camp to sort of try to blend the two together. And there are times when it works, times when it doesn't.
Rewatching it, there is a lot of this movie that definitely lends itself to the visuals of some of the late 80s comic runs. Yes. Of Batman.
Absolutely.
And more so really than the Burton Batman, to be honest. The Burton Batman just took a very dark edge to it. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of inspiration really from like German expressionism and its gothic look.
Yep.
Which Schumacher doesn't really take from. And there's a little bit of elements where you could tell they're also trying to lean a bit into the animated series.
Yep.
I think particularly choosing Two-Face as a villain.
Yeah.
Right. So which Two-Face, since we're talking about the 60s TV series, right? You don't have
he was never in that
there.
Yeah.
Right.
Riddler was there.
The Riddler. He was in that. And the Riddler's definitely very much inspired from that. And obviously the Burton Batmans had Joker, who's in that series.
Yep. And Penguin.
Penguin was also in that series. And Catwoman's there as well. And obviously, Catwoman's always, there's always that line for Catwoman. Mm-hmm. And, and we talked about it when we did 89 Batman last summer. Michelle Pfeiffer was just friggin' brilliant.
Yeah.
As Cat. I mean, she's what makes Batman Returns. Yeah. I mean, Danny DeVito's a fun part of it too.
Yeah. But
I don't really think there's a huge gap between the Burton Batmans and Batman Forever in terms of quality.
No, there's really not.
I think in terms of especially story wise, I mean, there's a lot of flaws to the Burton Batman movies that I think people don't want to admit.
Yeah.
And I understand at the time how, when Warner Bros. Was looking at the movies, how they needed to go a different direction than Batman Returns for the next Batman movie. Yes. Because it was a hit, not quite the hit the way the 89 Batman movie was. And so I get it. So they needed to commercialize Batman more. And so, yes, is it kind of a giant commercial for Batman toys?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Oh, well.
But,
it's kind of a blast to watch.
Yeah.
There is so much going on in this movie that you're looking at and marveling at and just chuckling at and enjoying, that it's a lot of fun. Jim Carrey is absolutely brilliant in this movie.
Yes, he is. So the great thing about Jim Carrey in this movie is Schumacher just let him be Jim Carrey.
Yes. Much to Tommy Lee Jones' chagrin.
Yes.
Which actually works in favor of the movie.
Yes, it does.
But he lets Carrey be Carrey. And what I didn't realize is that, so this was 1995, summer of 95. And 94 was a big year for Jim Carrey.
Yes, it was.
This is kind of his breakout outside of In Living Color. He had 3 movies that year: Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Right? We recently did Dumb and Dumber. He was Jim Carrey. Schumacher kind of had him in mind really even before those kind of became hits. Because, he knew his work well enough that it was perfect. And I remembered when it was announced that Jim Carrey was going to be in this movie, I thought, that's awesome. He should be the Riddler. And yeah, he is brilliant. And if you've seen the recent Sonic trilogy, you can definitely tell that he's kind of channeling the same energy to play Eggman as he has in the Riddler. So... And it really is kind of that first impression that he's a very, very good actor.
Yes, he is. Absolutely.
But Tommy Lee Jones, I think I want to get more into some of these choices later. Tommy Lee Jones is Two-Face. It's such a stark contrast.
Yes, from what he normally does and from
What
Jim
he does,
Carrey's.
because he has to kind of, some of it is like he's hamming it up and he's not as comfortable doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that he hadn't played the villain before. He played the villain in Under Siege.
Oh, yeah. He's played the villain before, but he hasn't played the campy villain before.
No.
And
it's funny. Even the Fugitive, he's not the villain in the Fugitive, but he's the antagonist.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford is trying to get free, prove his innocence, and Tommy Lee Jones is just trying to arrest him.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
And he plays that well. He's the antagonist in that, and he plays it well. It's not a villain. It's not a bad guy. But yeah, it's hammy, it's campy, and I'll get a bit more into it as we get into the scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very different role for him.
But I mean, I thought his dynamic with Jim Carrey was brilliant.
Oh yes,
they played off each other really well. As you're saying, Tommy Lee Jones was a little bit less comfortable with it, with that level of camp and that little level of hamming up, and Jim Carrey was in his element. But yeah, I thought they played off each other really well.
And then we obviously have Chris O'Donnell playing the boy wonder.
Yeah. So Chris O'Donnell is supposed to play a kid. He's supposed to play a teenager, right? Somebody who's under 18.
Yes.
He's clearly in his 20s. But he's supposed to be young enough to need foster care.
Yes. So there is a flaw. That is one of the flaws I have with this movie, or a gripe I have with this movie. And when that scene pops up, I'll discuss a little bit more. But yeah. And it's obvious that they're trying to make him seem like he's a kid. They're not playing him like he's a college student.
No,
they're trying to make it seem like he's truly a minor.
Yeah, and they smartly don't tell his age. Yes. They don't ever say his age in the movie. They just imply it.
Which, by the way, when this movie came out, he would have been 25 years old. Or maybe 24, because he's a June birthday of 1970.
Okay.
So I think he plays well.
Yeah, I do
with
too.
it, but there is it falls kind of flat, especially when it's trying to draw comparisons between him and Bruce.
Yes.
With the death of their family.
Yes.
And it doesn't ring as true. And it's funny because he just has a line, when he's like, I need a name, and he says Nightwing. It's like, no, he should have played Nightwing.
Yeah. Yes, he should have played Nightwing. Get an actor who's a bit younger to play Robin, and then in the sequel, bring Chris O'Donnell in as that older Dick Grayson as Nightwing.
But it is what it is. Which brings me to the point also about this movie, because it's still within the continuity of that series, from Batman, the Warner Bros. Batman.
Is it confirmed that it is?
Well, that's a good point.
That was going to be it was a question I was going to bring up, because it's implied that it is. The throughput is Michael Gough as Alfred. Yes. Right? He was Alfred in the Burton ones, and he's Alfred in the Schumacher ones. And Tim Burton was executive producer on Batman Forever. So, I mean, it would make sense for it to be a continuation, but Gotham is completely different.
Very different. Yes.
And if Gotham looked the same as it did in the other movies, I could get behind that it's a direct sequel to Batman and Batman Returns.
Right. Okay. Yes.
With just a little bit more camp thrown in.
Right. Yeah.
Times change. This is a few years later.
Yeah. There's a little bit more neon.
But I mean, the city's architecture wouldn't change so much.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I can see that. Yeah, the Gothic architecture, you just throw the neon onto it.
Yeah. I mean, there is neon, really, I guess, it's more
Batman.
It's more noticeable in Batman and Robin about the completely different architecture than from the Burton movies. But yeah, it's like in the 89 Batman and Batman Returns, there are no like giant statues in the middle of the city, which I mean, don't really come up too much in Batman Forever, but they do. They actually play quite a big role in Batman and Robin. And Batman and Robin is supposed to be a direct sequel to Batman Forever.
Yes, that much is true. Even if it is George Clooney donning the cowl. And you have Chris O'Donnell back. But it's so that there's another obvious connection.
So,
but yeah, it's a good question, because this is definitely a middle-aged Batman.
Yeah.
Which, granted, I guess you could make that argument for the 89 Batman with Michael Keaton.
You could.
Unlike Batman Begins, which really is the start of Batman.
Yeah.
it's his first foray out there.
Yeah, you don't really get the middle-aged Batman in that series until
even Dark Knight Rises. It's almost really it's actually older it's really more like Dark Knight Returns Batman. Retired Batman.
Yeah.
So it's a legitimate question. I think people have written non-canon pieces that are connected to the Burton Batmans that ignore the Schumacher Batmans, right? And so within their own little fanlet, they are not part of the canon of the Burton Batmans. But all that brings us to Val Kilmer in his turn as Batman. And he does not get enough credit, I think.
Really doesn't. He did a very good job as Batman and Bruce Wayne. Great job. I've always thought that he was a good Batman and a good Bruce Wayne. It's so difficult for an actor to get both roles, like to do well at both. And he does it.
He does. And, I think it's one of those movies that really the movie itself, like it's not concerned with being a deep thematic movie, right? It's not tackling as much as, say, the Nolan Batmans want to do, or the recent Batman, right? Mm-hmm. With Robert Pattinson. But it definitely acknowledges very blatantly the duality of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Yeah. It recognizes the duality. I mean, Two-Face is in this. It's playing off of those dual identities a lot. And Val Kilmer does it with aplomb. Yeah. And he does both. And, they're inseparable from each other, but they're also distinct. And he's able to switch between the two very, very easily. And what's funny is you look at his performance, and I think he understands the assignment. He sees that there's this campiness to it, but he also needs to bring this seriousness to it. Yeah. Which is funny, which it made me kind of think about Top Secret, where he's in a spoof, but his character takes himself seriously. Yeah. Within the spoof. I didn't think of that, but yeah, you're right. So I think he was very good on it. And he actually is, I like his chemistry with Nicole Kidman. So do I. Nicole Kidman is in this movie, if we have not mentioned that yet. And this was 90s Nicole Kidman. This is 90s Nicole Kidman, yeah. This is like when she and Tom Cruise were still an item. So, yeah, and, she's Dr. Chase Meridian. We'll dive into her character a little bit later. But, yeah, so she's kind of the other major star in this that we've mentioned. And funny enough, the other kind of major star that's in this movie, in a very kind of minor role, I shouldn't say very minor, but more of a, smallish role. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't get on the cover, even though she was pretty famous by this point. Yeah. It's Drew Barrymore. Yes, Drew Barrymore. She's actually in more of this movie than I remember. Same. It's like I forgot. It's like, oh yeah, Drew Barrymore. That's right. She's one of Two-Face's ladies, and this is during the time period where she was really just completely leaned into the bad girl persona. When she's dancing topless on David Letterman's desk. Yeah. Right. Just before she gets killed by Ghostface and Scream. Yep. But yeah, no, she's actually in quite a bit of this, and she just doesn't really get the top billing that the other 5 or 6 actors do. Well, there's only so many actors that can get top billing. That's true. And Grant, she plays more of I guess Kidman doesn't really play a notable character, but but Kidman has much more of a starring role than Drew Barrymore does. Yeah, oh yes. Drew Barrymore is a truly supporting character. Absolutely. And one other person that's in this that I forgot to mention when talking about the throughput from the other movies, it's not just Michael Gough, but also Pat Hingle. Pat Hingle is Commissioner Gordon. So I guess that's another way that it could actually be a direct sequel. But I think those are the only 2, because we did have Harvey Dent in the Burton Batmans. Yes, we did. And he was... Billy D! Yes, he was played by Billy D. Williams. And that's another one of those things that, maybe it is a different universe. Because Tommy Lee Jones was Harvey Dent. I don't think he was wearing blackface for 89 Batman. I don't think he was. But all that, should also kind of bring us to the point. Back to that era of, the mid-90s, right? Because obviously this is 90s Nicole Kidman, like you said. Mm-hmm. Like, again, Chris O'Donnell's in this. Like, he was kind of a hot thing for a lot of people at that time, too. He was. He had Son of a Woman, and so he was a big deal. Jim Carrey had just burst onto the scene. This movie was a massive, massive hit. Yeah, it was. You could not escape this movie. It was the highest grossing movie in 1995. And it's a movie that definitely felt like a blockbuster. A good popcorn movie that if you were, 10 years old or older, as a kid back in the, at this time period, you had to see this movie. Not interesting, even said like 8 and up, because everybody was talking about this. Yeah. It was everywhere. And even, you didn't dislike it then, right? It was only later that people really came to dislike it. Yeah, it was really only after Batman and Robin came out. I mean, this is the era, we've talked about this before about, when you would have, songs as massive hits as part of your soundtrack, right? Kiss from a Rose. Kiss from a Rose. Like, it was just funny. Like, it was actually, released before the movie. It was on Seal's album, and they put it on the soundtrack, and it became even more immensely popular. And it's not even the main song of the closing credits. No. They play it at the end. And, the song doesn't even make sense. He wants a kiss from a rose. Yeah. Right? But, Seal was huge. Yeah. I had to watch the official, well, I guess the second video, because there was a music video for it, and then they made one for the movie with Seal, and it was perfect because there's scenes of Batman in his nipple suit, and then there's Seal's nipples. And then you two actually had the actual main theme for the credits.
Yeah, they did.
And and kind of funny, that's probably one of the lesser known songs now, but I watched a video for it. It's very much in the style of the animated series Batman that they did for the music video. It's kind of cool. But yeah, it was a massive hit. You couldn't escape it. It was all the rage. Yeah. So so we talked about this. We mentioned earlier with Crimson Tide. That was Gene Hackman's tribute. It was the same year. And that was the 9th highest grossing movie of 1995. And Batman Forever was the first. It had a $52 million opening weekend. There are movies today, there are from major studios that are bombing with less money than that 30 years later. They're part of major franchises.
Yeah.
It ended up grossing, I think, a total of $184 million. That was a great sum back 30 years ago.
Yeah, it really was.
And then, they've had, I mentioned, Toy Story was a big breakout that year. Apollo 13, this movie beat Tom Hanks in the summer of 1995.
That's just unheard of, because that was Tom Hanks' heyday.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a year after Forrest Gump.
It was the year after Forrest Gump.
Tom Hanks was on top of the world.
And then they put Tom Hanks in space.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, everyone thought he was going to win Best Actor again. He didn't. That's okay. Nicolas Cage won that year, Leaving Las Vegas. But yeah, it was a massive hit. So, yeah. I think I'm eager to really dive in further into this with you.
So am I. Now, do you remember seeing it for the first time?
I did, actually. I do. It wasn't like opening weekend. It was that summer. And did I see it with Josh Adamati? I might have seen it with Josh Adamati. I think it was with him. It was like maybe a couple weeks after its release. And because people were talking about it, and everyone was saying it was good. Again, it's a summer movie, so we weren't even talking about it at school at that point yet because school was out. And yeah, I just remember people in the neighborhood talking about it and how good it was.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in the theater. I don't remember if it was opening weekend or if it was a couple weeks later, but it was somewhat close to opening, at least. I was 10 years old, almost 11, because it came out in June. I was born in August. But yeah, my mom took me to it, and I loved it. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah, why not?
And I remember, was it Burger King or McDonald's that had the little mugs, Batman Forever mugs?
Yeah,
Batman, Robin, Riddler, and Two-Face. The little glass mugs. I still have the Batman one. I had all four of them, but I actually still have the Batman one. This is not very good for an audio format, but showing you through camera here, if you can see it. Right now, it just stores my pens. But yeah, I still have the Batman one from then. But yeah, I had all four of them, and it was McDonald's, by the way. McDonald's that had the mugs. I wonder how much that's worth nowadays.
Remember when like fast food joints would have stuff like that to tie into movies like we're talking about? Because like you had to merchandise it?
Yeah.
I did not have the mugs, even though I definitely ate McDonald's during that summer. So
I mean, of course you did. You were a kid.
Back when McDonald's was cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so after seeing that movie, like I wanted everything Batman Forever. Right? I mean, I always just loved Batman anyway. But
right, yes. I mean, this is again the animated series. Batman was hip and cool. I mean, it's been hip and cool. But if you're 9, 10, 11 years old at that time, you've been watching the animated series for years, and now you really get to enjoy this Batman movie. Why not?
Yeah.
And strangely enough, I did not own it afterwards. We owned Batman Returns. We did not own this. And it took me a long time again to watch it. Like I that's the thing is I was trying to remember when was the next time I watched it.
I don't
after this first couple of summers. Like did we ever watch it together? I think we watched it once maybe.
We might have once, but yeah,
and then
I think we did. I think we did watch it because I think it was when we were going through. Yeah, that's that same summer that we were watching all the other Batman movies. We watched Batman and then Batman Returns, and I think we watched Batman Forever and Batman and Robin all that summer.
I remember that.
But I think that might have been the only time we watched it together.
I think so. And I want to say when I was living with Joe in Lansdowne, I think he had all four of those Batmans. I watched them at that point. And I think maybe once since then, I think because like Netflix had all of them streaming. I didn't watch Batman and Robin. I wanted to watch Forever. So I did it then. And then just pretty much twice really in the last couple of weeks, I've watched it. And so very few and far between. So even for myself, like I've allowed Batman and Robin to be connected too much to it.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm glad I could go into a nice, kind of fresh look at it again.
Me too. Because, yeah, like I was saying, that when it first came out, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. And then after Batman and Robin came out, I was still young enough to enjoy Batman and Robin when I first saw it.
Right.
It was only a couple years later. But
yeah, no, it was, 97?
Yeah.
So
I still enjoyed it at the time. But then seeing it later on, after growing up a little bit, then, yeah, my feelings about Batman and Robin definitely affected my feelings about Batman Forever unfairly.
And again, I'm sure, because Batman Begins... the Nolan series is so good.
Yeah.
They didn't really have any stench with, so it didn't help.
Yeah.
But now, we can look back at it again. That's the beauty of movies. You can kind of go back sometimes and reevaluate.
Yeah.
And some movies, you might go through little peaks and valleys. Yeah. And I think this isn't worth anyone's revisit.
Yes, it is.
So, and part of it's just it looks so cool.
It really does.
The visuals in this movie, the set design, the cinematography, some of the shots in this movie, the looks of it are just
they're top notch.
Absolutely, it was nominated for cinematography at the Oscars.
Understandably so.
I believe it because it's really well shot. Like how it combines just the lighting, but then there's such a combination of shadows in this kind of the darkness, but then this bright neon and just other just bold colors. It's so much things that contrast, and it captures it really well.
Yeah. So should we get into it?
We should.
All right. Before we get started, as always, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you've not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then go ahead and pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back and listen. If you have seen it or you just don't mind being spoiled, then keep on listening. But you have been warned, we will be spoiling this movie. And the first spoiler, it's a lot better than people remember it being.
If we haven't said that already. It's not Citizen Kane, but hey, neither are Burton's Batman movies.
No. So the first shot of this movie, I actually really enjoyed, right? You got the Warner Brothers logo.
Right.
And it morphs into the bat symbol.
Yep.
Right?
Perfect.
Which is very similar to the opening credits of every episode of Batman the Animated Series, where you got the Warner Brothers logo and it morphs into the blimp, the police blimp.
Yeah, the blimp. Right. Yes.
And I just thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah. Totally. I agree.
But then we get inside the Batcave and Batman is suiting up. You get what becomes a staple of the Schumacher Batman movies where when he's suiting up, you get him putting on the different parts and then turns around and there's just Val Kilmer's ass right in your face.
I love it later. It's very prominent late in the movie when you get into the climax and there it is. Rounded, sculpted, it's Kilmer's ass. You don't get O'Donnell's buns like that. You get Kilmer's.
You do in Batman and Robin.
Well, yes.
But you don't get it in Batman Forever. And you don't get Kilmer's in Batman and Robin. You get Clooney's.
You get Clooney's. But then you get, there's Alfred, the dependable butler.
Yes, Alfred.
And he's
Michael Goff. Michael Goff he's fantastic as Alfred. He really is, and he's concerned because Bruce hasn't eaten dinner yet. So he tells him to take a sandwich, and I love how I don't know if I love it or if it's just ridiculous, but Batman's first line in this movie, his very first line in this movie. After Alfred asks him to take a sandwich with him, he says, "I'll get drive-thru." If that is not an advertisement for going to any of the drive-thru restaurants, like any of the fast food places that were celebrating this movie at the time.
But it's the age-old question, though. Does Batman actually go through the drive-thru in the Batmobile?
Yes. Does he? He did in the commercials.
Yes, he did.
I remember there were just like when Godzilla came out. Just like when the '98 Godzilla came out. Taco Bell had all the commercials with Godzilla in them.
Yes.
We had McDonald's commercials with Batman, and in those he was going through the drive-thru in the Batmobile.
Which, it brings up the second question. And so this is brought up in the movie that came out before Batman Forever. And Little Big League is, what happens if you're the car behind the Batmobile?
Yeah.
Which is, in the case of Batman Forever, you're going to get like pink flames ejaculated towards you. Which is, I love it. The other thing I love about this Batmobile, because it's large, it's garish, it's just it's massive.
Yeah, it's not sleek like the Burton Batmobile was.
It's not the Tumbler.
No,
but yeah, it's not sleek. It's got like neon hubcaps with a bat symbol on it, and it's got pink flames shooting out of it.
Yep,
like neon pink flames. Because that's the next thing that happens. He tells Alfred he's going to get drive-thru. He gets in the Batmobile. He drives off, and you just get these pink flames shooting out the back of the Batmobile.
So he's being called to. There's a bank robbery going on. Two-Face is robbing the bank.
Yeah, and this bank, it's in the middle of Gotham. It's in a skyscraper, so it's not like it's on the ground. No, it's on the ground
level. It's up high on the skyscraper.
It's built up high. Yeah,
or at least the vault is. Which is not a very big vault.
Vault is high.
So is that the main vault in the bank? And typically a vault isn't on a track like that. But hey, it's a movie.
It is a movie. This movie started with Batman telling his butler he's getting drive-thru. Shouldn't split too many hairs.
Yeah, true. True. So, Two-Face is, in the bank, and there's a bank guard. There's a security guard there that he throws in the vault. And when Batman comes in, he goes into the vault to help the security guard. And, of course, Two-Face shuts the door.
It's a trap.
He shuts the vault door. And then hooks a cable to the outside of the vault. And, first they had sent a wrecking ball through the wall of the building to make a hole big enough for the vault to fit through. Because it's not a very big vault. And so they hook a cable from a helicopter onto the vault and start to pull it out of the hole they made with the wrecking ball. While Batman and the security guard are locked inside.
Are locked in here. And we learned already that he's already killed 2 other security guards.
Yeah.
And in the course of this, we find out that it's not so much it's not the money he's after. He has a vendetta against Batman.
Yes.
So the interesting thing about this iteration of Two-Face, he had a lot of Joker to him, where he's definitely kind of maniacal, and he's definitely looking to cause chaos, which is true of Two-Face in general. But it's very different than what you would see from like Aaron Eckert's Two-Face. Even his suit is it's very bright and bold. This kind of feels like the way Joker might. It's definitely influenced by Joker, it feels like to me. So, but we get alerted that I guess Two-Face is upset that Batman did not save his life, or did not save Harvey Dent's life.
Yeah, that Batman didn't stop that he didn't stop him from becoming Two-Face.
Yes, which if you don't know who Two-Face is, right? He's Harvey Dent, and he was Gotham's DA, and and he gets not blinded, but scarred.
Yeah.
So because of the accident.
Yeah, not too long after this scene, there's a sort of a news broadcast where they're talking about Two-Face and how he used to be Harvey Dent, the Gotham's DA. And during one of the trials for Maroni, one of the crime bosses
of Gotham,
Maroni threw acid in his face. And he had a file folder that he was holding up, and he was able to hold up and block half of his face from it, so the acid only got onto the left half of his face. So,
what I love about that scene is that Batman's in the courtroom.
Yeah,
just watching all of this.
Yeah.
This is what it feels. This is what it feels like. 60s Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Batman's just hanging out in the courtroom.
He's just chilling. Just chilling in the courtroom.
And then he sees acid throw, so he's like, "No!"
Yeah. So apparently, Two-Face is mad at Batman for not stopping Maroni sooner.
Right. And so he's purposely, he's seized this bank vault with this innocent guard, and locked him in there to trap Batman.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're now, like you said, they're suspended from a helicopter outside.
And then the vault starts filling with acid. Where did the acid come from? Is one question. Because there are no hoses hooked up to the outside of the vault. Was one of the safe deposit boxes filled with acid and, on a remote trigger or something, and it just opened up?
That'd be clever. Like Two-Face goes in there like a couple weeks prior as a henchman, opens the safety deposit box and puts in some acid, and has it triggered just for that moment.
Yeah. Though there was a lot of acid for it just to be one of the safety deposit boxes.
A lot of acid because it's filling up.
But right? It's the same acid that was used on Harvey Dent to create Two-Face.
Yes.
So they climb up to the top, right?
So they climb to the top, and the security guard, he's got a hearing aid.
Yes, I was going to bring this up too.
You go on.
So when Batman, he's like up against the vault door, and yeah, the guard has a hearing aid, and Batman grabs the hearing aid and pulls it out of his ear, and when he pulls it out, it makes the sound of a cork popping from a bottle.
There are random sound effects in this movie that again just leans in to the camera. It's like tense moment, and then pop. And I love the security guard's like, "Hey, that's mine." And I'm just thinking, it's like, if Batman wants your hearing aid,
you let him take your
hearing aid. Yeah. He's gonna MacGyver some shit with your hearing aid.
So he uses the hearing aid as a stethoscope to pick the lock, basically, to break out of the vault. Yeah, he holds it up to the vault door and he's listening with it, and for some reason there's a combination dial on the inside of the door. But he used the hearing aid to hear the clicks, and and ends up getting the door open. And then they get out of there. Batman shoots his grapple rope, his grappling hook, and attaches it to the vault. And then cuts the cable that's holding the vault to the helicopter. And the vault, as Batman and the security guard soar off into safety, to the top of the building. Then the vault just swings right back down, perfectly right back onto the track where it was.
Directly back.
Right through the hole in the wall. Just perfectly through that hole. Lands right back on the track where it was. Like it had never been moved. Now,
by the way, the bank guard's actor, was Joe Grafasi.
Yes.
Is the actor that plays this. And so I'm looking at him on IMDb right now. He definitely looks 30 years older.
Yeah, he does. But what I want to know is when Batman opened the door, when he opened the vault door, and then, it's not too much of an issue with when he opened the door, other than how he opened it, but still, I mean, it's just a fun part of the movie. But I guess he did shut the vault door before letting it swing back in there. So anyway, still, there's a question. What happens when they go to open the vault door again? When, like, the bank manager goes to open it. Well, because at this point, the thing is full of acid. You open that door, all that acid is going to pour out.
Yes, it will.
Did he, call the bank later and be like, hey, before you open that vault door, be careful. Two-Face filled it with acid.
So I like next is like they're on the roof, but Two-Face is still in the helicopter flying off, and he's upset now. So I love how he gets so upset he decides to start shooting his henchmen. Including the pilot. The pilot's played by this guy Gary Casper, by the way. He mostly does stunts, but yeah, so he just murders his pilot and he flips his coin. It falls on the one side.
I mean, he's Two-Face, so he's always flipping his coin anytime he needs to make a decision.
He murders his pilot, and then the plane, it crashes through the Statue of Liberty. And I completely forgot, like, the Statue of Liberty is in this movie.
Yes, it is.
It gets named.
Yes.
And that part gets completely dropped.
Yeah.
Two-Face destroys the Statue of Liberty.
But there's no mention of it ever again in the movie.
So, do we see Nicole Kidman at all through this sequence?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we did. I was looking through that. So
I don't think we see Nicole Kidman until Bruce Wayne is introduced to her.
That's what I thought.
Till Bruce goes to her office. But yeah, so then we go to Wayne Enterprises.
Yep, and
we've got the R&D department.
And Bruce Wayne, he's going to be taking a tour of it.
And this scene has an interesting cameo.
It does.
So
you're right.
While Bruce Wayne is walking through the R&D department at Wayne Enterprises, back behind him is Jon Favreau.
Yeah, he is
just walking along.
Little cameo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think this is after Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
When he had a much bigger role. But yeah, he's just walking back there. Yeah. We don't see him again, but he's in this scene.
Yep. But even before Bruce gets in there, we have Jim Carrey, and he's working on his most recent experiment.
Yeah, and he's you can tell he's kind of this eccentric kind of researcher.
Mm-hmm.
And he
plays Edward Nygma.
He idolizes Bruce Wayne.
Yes, he idolizes Bruce Wayne.
Because Bruce Wayne personally hired him.
Yes. And because Bruce Wayne personally hired him, he made it his life's goal to satisfy all of Bruce Wayne's needs.
All of his needs?
All of his needs. I mean, if you look in the background...
No wonder he hates the boy Wonder.
If you look in the background, there's some knee pads hanging on the wall. But anyway, I'll leave... No, there's none of that. But...
So,
So
and Bruce is
he's
being shown around by Ed Begley Jr., who is, what's his character's name right now? Fred Stickley. And he's kind of like the supervisor, like the research and development, like floor. Right. Yep. And he doesn't like, Jim Carrey's character, who's Edward Nigma or Ed Nigma. If you're familiar with your Batman lore, right? Ed Nigma. I think you can kind of see the play on that words if you're, again, not familiar with.
Although there are some versions of Batman where it's actually Edward Nashton, not Edward Nigma.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't think I knew that. I've read a lot about the different the Rogues Gallery. That's one that escaped me somehow.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Edward Nigma. You got Enigma, because as we find out, well, if you're familiar with Batman at all, you know that Edward Nigma is the Riddler.
He really wants to speak with Bruce. He's really excited Bruce has come up on the floor because he wants to share with him this
new invention that he came up with.
This invention that he's worked on. And really quickly, Mr. Stickley is trying to shoo him away.
Yes, because
right, he's like, don't bother, Mr. Wayne, right? But you're not familiar with Ed Begley, by the way. If you've seen a bunch of the Christopher Guest mockumentaries, you would know him. And not the Christopher Guest mockumentary, but also this is Spinal Tap and Pineapple Express.
Yep.
Right. He's in a lot of things. This is a smaller role, but yeah. So, but Bruce actually decides to hear him out because Bruce Wayne's always, he's not an asshole. He's always, he's a decent guy. He is. I think he's just especially interested if you have an idea that could be beneficial to the people of Gotham, and the world.
Yeah. So I mean, he's happy to listen to Ed. He's happy to give him a minute to hear his pitch.
And he actually listens to the pitch.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, essentially it's something that will send, TV signals into the viewer's brain directly. Right. Yeah. And kind of place them directly into the images. Right.
Yes. Basically placing you into the show you're watching.
Right. And so he introduces it. And then even then, like, he says, like, you give me the schematics of this. I could look at it and think about it. But Nigma wants an answer now.
Yeah, he wants an answer now. And so, when given that, that demand, then Bruce is like, well, if you need it now, then it's a no. And here's why. Right. He actually explained to him why it's a no now.
It's a reasonable no, too.
Yeah, because it has to do with manipulating the mind. And Bruce isn't about that.
Right. And if he had time to maybe look at it and see the schematics and see ways to tweak it, he might have been on board. I don't know. Yeah. We don't know. But he has to say no. And again, he's not sure about manipulating someone else's mind, especially potentially being manipulated unwillingly.
Yes.
Unwittingly.
Yes.
Right. So it's no, and now Nigma gets crushed. It's like, you're supposed to understand.
Yeah. And now Nigma hates Bruce Wayne.
Yes. Now we have both villains are going to hate Bruce Wayne. We got Two-Face and we got the Riddler. They both hate Bruce Wayne.
Yep. And this was Bruce looks out. So before Bruce came walking in there, then Ed Begley Jr. had visited Nigma in his lab, and they were talking about this device.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and so Stickley, told him to stop working on this thing because it's never going to go anywhere, and Nigma wouldn't give it up, and so then you get the whole part with Nigma and Bruce. And so after this, so after Bruce is done, while he's walking through the R&D department, he looks out the window and there's the bat signal.
There's the bat signal.
So he goes to his office. And here's another crazy part, right? So he goes into his office, sits in his chair, and the chair like straightens out, and this trap door opens, and he just goes sliding through this tube system. That how far away is the Bat Cave from Wayne Enterprises?
Downtown Gotham. Like, every iteration of Wayne Manor, it's on the outskirts.
Yes, it's on the outskirts of Gotham. Yeah.
And later in the movie,
like it's out away from the city.
There's not a gas station within miles.
Yeah.
Of Wayne Manor.
Which means that Bruce Wayne had a tube system built. It never shows the outside of the tube, so you would imagine, like, in their shots of Gotham, you don't see these tubes going all over the place. So you'd imagine it goes straight down Wayne Enterprises, like down the building and in underground, right?
Yes. So,
and it's like there's like twists and turns in there too. It's not just a straight shoot.
Yeah, no, they're following him. It's like a roller coaster in some ways.
Yeah. So that means that somehow, he either hired somebody to do it or he did it himself in secret.
Hey,
but he dug a winding tunnel under Gotham.
He hired Andy Dufresne. Andy Dufresne.
There you go.
Before he got to his.
There you go. Yes. He built Batman's escape chute.
But like, does he have like? I get Wayne. Okay, so I get like Wayne Enterprises, the headquarters. Are there other
exactly? Potential? Are there other tubes?
This is this secret network of tubes under Gotham,
and part of it seems like it's just like a giant slide, like a giant covered slide that he's going down. Yes. But at the same time, in order for him to be going that speed,
something has to keep
through this thing. Him. Yeah, he would either like Wayne Tower, his office in Wayne Enterprises would have had to be like really, really high, like higher than the top floor of the building, and the Batcave would have to be really low, like way, way, way underground, way farther underground than it shows when it's just a small staircase that goes from the Batcave to Wayne Manor.
Which just conveniently gets found twice.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. But so, there's got to be some sort of pneumatic system going on in these tubes. It's just sucking him through it. Right?
He's just getting shot like your deposit check. Which also begs the question: does Bruce go through the drive-thru at the bank?
Well, I'm sure Bruce does.
Bruce does.
But does Batman?
He got to deposit this check, right? Anyway,
where do you think he got the Bat credit card in Batman and Robin?
Anyway, he suits up and he goes to the top of police headquarters. He thinks he's going to meet Commissioner Gordon,
but nope.
But no, it's Nicole Kidman. It's Tom Cruise's wife.
Yes, it's
which I guess
Dr.
they
Chase
had
Meridian.
met before. Thinking about the dialogue, so I think she was there, and they spoke briefly before he went up. And for some reason, there was a psychologist.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, before he went to the bank. Before he went after Two-Face at the bank.
Yeah,
she might have had a brief scene there with him. Yeah. But it's Dr. Chase Meridian. She had ignited the bat signal.
Bruce is not happy about this because the bat signal is not a beeper.
No, the bat signal is not a beeper. It is not.
Which makes you wonder today, right?
Beepers were something that were before cell phones really became a thing.
And most of them had them were like doctors that were like on call.
And drug dealers.
And wait for them to, Ever see The Wire? Anyhow.
But yeah, basically you would call somebody's beeper and it would beep at them and they'd look at it and there was a phone number that would
and for
be
Zach
displayed on the
Galifianakis.
screen. Yes, and for Zach Galifianakis. Yes. And lucky for him, Caesar's Palace is beeper friendly.
Yes. They should have left the dude a beeper.
They should have.
Would have been a far better way to get a hold of him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow. And so she wanted to meet him because she's fascinated by him. She's a psychologist. I get it. Or she's a psychiatrist. Can't remember which one they said.
I think she's a psychiatrist. I think.
Okay, man. Wikipedia says psychologist.
Okay,
so
psychologist.
It's not that important.
Either way. They're similar. Similar professions.
But and she was interested in seeing him. I love his line. He's like, "It's the car. Chicks love it."
Yeah.
The chicks dig it. I
Chicks
figured.
dig it, yeah. And then Commissioner Gordon shows up. And he's wondering why the bat signal is lit.
He's like, I didn't like that. And then, where do they leave off with that? Because I'm looking at my notes here. I don't they say a whole lot else. Like, she just wanted to see Batman.
Yeah, I think she just wanted to see Batman.
As she, it becomes this developing, romance, and it's really gonna become between him and Bruce. And
yeah, but right now she's got a crush on Batman. She's got a big old crush on Batman.
There was that bit of dialogue. I'm sorry, I was forgetting about this because we were talking about the pneumatic tube. No, actually, no. This happens as they're talking with Chase. Is that about last night? Because it's the next day. It's the next night.
Mm-hmm.
About a weakness of Two-Face, and it's the coin.
Yes.
Right. He's a slave to the coin.
Yes.
Is what he says, and it's important because that actually comes back later into the movie because this is Achilles' heel.
Yes. But yeah, so basically Two-Face, he's got this two-headed coin. One side is, perfectly clean and, and intact. The other side is all scratched up and tainted. And so, that coin's supposed to represent the two halves of his face, the two personalities in his body, basically. And so anytime that he needs to make a decision, does it a lot when he's about to kill somebody, or, if there's any other major decision he needs to make, he'll flip the coin, and depending on which side of heads it lands on, that decides what he does. And so, but he can't seem to make any decisions without flipping this coin first.
So, anyway, back to the rooftop. So they have that discussion about him being a slave of that coin, right? And then she just goes in this whole thing about she's always had a thing for the wrong kind of man.
Mm-hmm.
Earrings, motorcycles, black leather.
No, black rubber.
Black rubber, that's right.
Black rubber. Which I think it's funny because they mention it because they mention it again in Batman and Robin that his suit is made of rubber. It's like, yes, I mean, clearly the suit that he's wearing, that Val Kilmer is wearing, is made of rubber. But you would think that they would find some way to try to explain it as something other than rubber for the movie.
Yes.
You know, some sort of armor or something. But nope, rubber, black rubber.
And she keeps trying to initiate like the actual like date with him, and he won't have it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then Gordon comes up, and then she leaves, and they're just like, woman. Yeah. It's like, oh, woman. And then we cut back to Wayne Enterprises, and it's at night still, right? And Ed's still there,
and he's still working on his project,
working away at his project. And then he still has, Mr. Stickley.
Yeah, Mr. Stickley shows up, and he's mad because Ed, embarrassed him in front of Bruce Wayne. Yes. And he told him to stop working on this project, and he didn't stop. And so, he fires him. He fires Nigma, but Eddie Boy doesn't like that too much.
Nope.
He tells him he can't fire him. So he decides
to test his device.
Yes. So, he puts his hat contraption that's very similar to 1955 Doc Brown with his mind-reading device.
It sits on there, and then it connects to the other person with a suction
yeah, with cup. A suction cup to his forehead. And we find out what this device really does.
It connects their brains together.
Sure, it does what he said it would do. It makes it seem like Stickley is in the show that he's watching. But while it's doing that, it's basically sucking his brain power out and transferring it to Nigma to make him smarter.
Make him understand everything that's going on with, Stickley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, Stickley gets a rush. He's kind of experiencing all this, and he's in it. And
they never really explain if it actually hurts the person that's getting their brain power sucked out, or if it's just sharing, sharing all that. Like if they end up dumber after he's done.
Well,
because the whole thing is to make Nigma smarter. That's what he explains. That's how he explains it. But it never because later on when he's really taking it all in, the people of Gotham that he's sucking their brain power from, they don't seem any dumber when they're done.
No, they're very entranced. They don't care about it. And I think it's a fair point to make about the movie. It's just it doesn't dive deeper into this bigger plot around Gotham.
Yeah.
Right? Like Batman, the 89 Batman definitely does. This is not as concerned with the effects or the threat to Gotham as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's really the threat on Batman.
Yeah.
himself. But they don't explain that. But when he disconnects it, Stickley doesn't really remember much of what happened.
No, he doesn't really remember much of what happened. He
was having a good time with it at first, and now he's upset again.
He does realize he realizes a little bit of what happened. He doesn't necessarily remember the details of what happened there, but he does know that Nigma did something to
mind
him.
Probed.
He knows that Nigma was in his brain.
Yeah, and so he's terminating him. He's cutting off the funding, but Nigma's not going to have any of that, right?
No. So Nigma ties him to his office chair, and he's still got this thing on his head, and he rolls him toward the big window at the end of the hall. He He breaks through that window, and as he breaks through the window, Ed takes the thing off his head so that he doesn't lose his contraption. And Stickley goes plummeting to his death.
Right.
Because
he only gets the bronze medal.
Yes, he only gets the bronze medal. Because it was a great dive, but he didn't stick the landing.
It's just, yeah. I mean, this entire sequence is like perfect manic Jim Carrey.
Yes, because and Wayne Enterprises is on a cliff apparently,
which didn't look like that earlier in the movie.
It's
whatever.
On the edge of a cliff that is over the river.
The geography of this Gotham, I don't get it.
Yeah, me neither.
But I'll go with it. You always see more of Gotham than this, and you say do the '89 Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really, you don't question that.
No.
I mean, I don't think it's the same intent as Stanley Kubrick, where he's just playing with your mind about where things are.
No, I think Schumacher was just like, "Hey, it'd be cool if we put this thing here." Oh, that's not how it looked earlier in the movie? Oh well.
Hey, there's miles and miles of bat tube.
To the bat tube.
I love how we kind of forgot to say it. He goes into he sits down in his chair and he just tells Alfred, chair.
Yes, that's right, chair. And then it folds up. Now, here's the question though. Since we've established that it's most likely a pneumatic tube system, not just a regular slide, does that mean that he can get on the Batcave end of it and get sucked into his office?
He really needs to work on. They didn't dive into this long enough within this cinematic universe. Maybe he might even have one that connects him to Metropolis.
He might. He might.
Hey, I want to see. I want to go see Clark.
I want to see the movie where he built this tube system. Maybe he's got one that goes to Metropolis. Maybe he's got one that goes to Central City.
Meanwhile, Andy Dufresne, he's just going around. He's covering one hole with Kim Basinger.
Mm-hmm.
Covers the other with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yep.
Right? And Gotham's none the wiser.
I want to see the movie when he hires Andy Dufresne to build this stuff. To dig these tunnels.
Whoa. Is that how Morgan Freeman got hired as Lucius Fox?
Whoa. You just blew my mind, dude. Maybe Morgan Freeman is the one that introduced Bruce Wayne to Andy Dufresne.
Wow.
And as a thank you for hooking him up with the guy that built his tube system, he gave him a job at Wayne Enterprises as the head of the R&D department and later the CEO.
I love it when he fires Rutger Hauer. Anyway.
That's a great scene. But not in this movie.
Anyway, so there's another line when he's terminating Stickley. He's like, surf's up, Big Kahuna.
It surf's up, Big Kahuna.
There's so many great one-liners in this movie. Anyway, so we go to the next day. It's obviously, they found that Stickley has died, right? He's, and they I love how they have the security footage has been altered.
Yes. Yeah, because after he threw him out the window, then Nigma went and he changed the footage.
It looks
we
like
doctored the footage.
Sickley has just decided to run full force.
Yes. Just decided to run as fast as he can. Just full tilt right into the window.
I love how like everyone else buys it, but Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he is the world's greatest detective.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But it doesn't take the world's greatest detective to realize that nobody in their right mind would just run full tilt out a window so high up in a building. Especially since typically windows that are that high in buildings are very, very difficult to break.
Yes, there's a reason for that.
You typically can't
Defenestration now
run into them and break them and break through them.
And meanwhile, anyway, so he's distraught.
Yes,
over all this.
Top-notch scene chewing from Jim Carrey here.
Yeah, and Bruce is not. Val Kilmer. Bruce is not buying it. Right. So, but then, Bruce is looking around and then he gets something delivered and it's a riddle.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And does he open it here or does he open it later?
Did I think he opened it here.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he opens it here. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I forgot even before that, because it's Bruce Wayne, and he is such a good man, right? He tells someone that's like in human resources, like, I want his full benefits covered.
Yes.
And, everything, funeral, all that covered to his family.
Yes.
Right. And then they're like, well, we don't really cover suicide. He's like, I don't think this was a suicide.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, but he's like, so he's like, you make sure all of his benefits are covered, pay for his funeral, so his family doesn't have to pay a penny for it, right? For any of it. And yeah, that riddle that he gets there.
Right. And he's talking, it gets kind of delivered as he's talking here. And they're talking like they want to know who's going to take the charity circus, which is going to come up soon.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know. And now we have the riddle, right?
So the riddle,
numbers on my face.
Yes. If you look at the numbers on my face, you won't find 13 anyplace. And
that's right.
The answer to that is, of course, a clock. It's
a very obvious riddle.
Yeah.
But it's a clock, right? And then so his assistant, or the excuse me, I guess it really is like his assistant, not really the HR person. It's like, well, he would send you the riddle. I was like, that is the riddle, right?
Yeah. So,
and
they're trying to figure out who sent it, and then we get the next scene we get Bruce going to Dr. Chase Meridian's office.
Right. Yeah, they set up an appointment, and he gets there and he hears this grunting, and she's like, kind of, he hears her, and he sounds like to him she's being attacked.
Yeah. So he busts down the door.
He just full weight
breaks through the door. The door falls off his hinges. It's a big door too. It is a big door.
It's one of those doors.
This door has got to be at least like 10 feet tall.
I was gonna say at least 10. I would say probably even like 12 feet.
Yeah, it's a big door.
It's a big set of heavy double doors too. He doesn't do both doors. He's the one door, right? And he gets in there, and she's just boxing.
Yeah.
She's sparring with.
Yeah, she's got a heavy bag, and she's hitting it. And,
yeah. He's just like, oh, I'm sorry.
So he picks up the door, puts it back in the doorway.
He puts it back together.
Yes.
Right back on its hinge somehow. Anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, so then
He brought the riddle.
They start talking, and he sees this little doll on the table.
Yes.
This little black and white doll. And Chase, she explains what it is. It's essentially a dream catcher.
Yeah, it's but for Africa.
Yeah, right? It's like from some African tribe. It's
kind of like, you think of dream catchers as being like Native American, especially southwestern U.S., right? It's somewhere in Africa, but similar concept.
Similar concept. You have that, and it stops the bad dreams from coming and only lets the good dreams come through. And so she asks him if he wants one, and he's like, no. He's like, I don't need one.
Yeah, I don't need one.
But then he shows her the riddle, and she figures out right away too. It's a clock.
And she said that this person's probably obsessed with you, and they might have homicidal tendencies. Right, and his only escape might be to purge that fixation, which means killing him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Two-Face. We know who it is. It's not Two-Face.
Yeah,
they both fixate on killing him.
Yes,
but different ways.
Yeah, because this definitely is not Two-Face's MO.
So they're talking, and he looks on the wall, and he's like, "Oh, you have a thing for bats."
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh no, that's a Rorschach test. You see what you want in it." It does look like a bat, though.
Oh, by the way, we were wrong. It's not African. It's Malaysian.
Yes, that's right. Malaysian.
It's a Malaysian dream warden.
Yes.
And it's black and white also. Again, it's like it plays off the duality, the dichotomy. Yeah. Exactly. So to kind of give you a picture, because we were saying Dreamcatcher, but it's a doll and it's black and white. But so she's finally like, "Oh, why did he come here?" Right? He's like, I think essentially was just that, he wants to see if she's going to go, to the circus.
Yeah.
Essentially. Right. So then we get the scene that's back in, Edward. Right.
Yes. And so
he's going to his apartment.
He's in his apartment, and he's got
a giant chain of keys to get into it, by the way.
Yes. He's got a giant... he's got a jailer's key ring.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the comically large...
It's a
way too many keys.
Ring of keys. What's going on here? He's got a small apartment.
Yeah, but...
one of those top-level greenhouse type apartments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tiny, and it's just cluttered with all this stuff. His projects and, all this stuff. And in the corner, he's got a Zoltar machine. But it's not Zoltar. He's replaced it with this guy in a green suit with a bowler hat that has question marks all over it.
Where did he come up with that idea in the first place?
I don't know.
He decides to adopt that persona.
Yeah. Later, and the two, and it's got two light bulbs there. One says no, the other has a question mark. And so he's at his computer. He's trying to come up with names because he's decided he's going to be a supervillain.
Yes.
And he's trying to figure out what his name is, but he knows what his gimmick is. So there's the important part. He leaves riddles. He's already done so once. And
he's question mark man.
Question mark man.
And then
the puzzler.
The thing keeps going. It's he has this little maniacal laugh that goes to the no.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually, he goes through a few of them. The puzzler.
Is it the puzzler? Yeah.
Captain Kill. And every time, no. And then when he says question mark man.
Yeah.
And then it goes over to the question mark. And then it keeps on going to the question mark. And then he gets a glimpse of the Zoltar figure in the box that's doing it, and obviously takes inspiration from the outfit that it's wearing, because then he's got the same thing. He's got a green suit with question marks all over it, and a green bowler hat, and a cane with a question mark on top.
Yep.
Where did he get? Did he already have these clothes?
Well, I want to know where he gets all this stuff later. Yes. I don't know.
Because throughout this movie, he changes his clothes a lot.
He does.
Like,
I want to get
right in the middle of encounters. Right in the middle of encounters, he changes his clothes.
Of encounters. No, like in the middle of the climax, he does it too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like he's got a phone booth. He's Clark Kent.
Is he just wearing like layers and layers and layers? And as the movie goes on, he just takes the layers off? Because, I mean, they do get more and more skin tight as the movie goes on.
So we cut from all that. We're at the Gotham Hippodrome, where they have the circus.
So the Gotham Hippodrome, did you notice it strongly resembles the Hall of Justice from Super Friends?
Yes, it does.
Meanwhile, back at the Hall of Justice.
Oh, dude. That's good.
Yeah, it resembles the Hall of Justice. I didn't notice that until this viewing.
Wonder if that was purposeful. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was.
But this is a cool looking hippodrome, the arena and the circus itself. It's off the charts. It's got everything.
Yeah.
Right. They got guys doing bass drums all around it, and got this great ringleader, and it's a charity event. Also, like, it's for Gotham's Children's Hospital, right?
Yes.
But the main focus is the star of the show, or the Flying Graysons.
The Flying Graysons, a family of 4, and they're trapeze artists.
Yeah. And they go up, I think they say like 70 feet above the tent, right? Or in the tent, but top of the tent is about 70 feet, where they're doing all their aerial acrobatics, right?
Yeah, so basically the Hippodrome seems like it's just a big hollow building.
Yeah, essentially.
But yeah, so they're up high in there, but there's still a good amount of space above them, like before you actually get to the roof of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big area in there.
The parade's starting. Bruce and Chase, they've gotten their seats. They're talking. Chase tells Bruce she's met somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Named Batman.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who it is yet.
No.
Anyway, he might have a clue, but right?
Yeah.
And so we get back. They got the ringmaster. He's like now Richard, the youngest Grayson, is gonna do his death-defying, death drop or something like that, right?
Yeah, so it's the father.
Everybody
it's the
cheers.
father, like Daddy Grayson and Dick Grayson. And so Dick Grayson's dad's character name is Dad Grayson.
Dad Grayson.
And Mom Grayson.
And Mom Grayson. Great names.
Yeah.
Kind of figured. Anyway. And then, Gloria Fioramonte and Larry Lee.
Mm-hmm.
The ringmaster is played by Daniel Reckert, by the way, also. So.
Yes.
So.
I love how in this movie there's somebody named Wig Lady. Katrina Fisher plays Wig Lady.
So they complete the stunt, right?
Yeah, and this whole thing is they're doing it with no net.
No net, exactly. And they complete it. Everyone cheers. They're tense. It's a typical thing you might see. Like you would think of it at a circus like this. The ringmaster kind of introduces some other things, and he walks off stage, and then we see him get knocked out and dragged off by Two-Face's henchmen.
Yeah.
And then Two-Face takes off the guy's, top hat and his cane and dresses up like him. He comes out, right? And, he's like, we have a new act called Massacre Under the Big Top.
Yeah. So his henchmen come out behind him, and they have this big bomb. This big cartoonish bomb. Your stereotypical, round, ball-shaped bomb. And it's got a big timer on it.
And there's 206 of dynamite in it.
Yes. 206 of dynamite inside this ball. And so he says he sets the timer, and he's like, for some reason, he knows Batman is in the crowd.
Yes. This is what I don't get. Like, how does he know Batman is, like, I guess he thought, like, but, like, okay, how do you know Batman will be in this crowd?
Yeah.
I could see how he would think Bruce Wayne would be in this crowd.
Yeah. I mean, is it that he's going by, because I'm sure this thing was televised. So is he hoping that, Batman's watching TV if he's not in the building, at the time?
It's possible.
But he tells him that he's got till the clock runs out to reveal who he is.
Yeah. Right.
And so right away, while everybody's, screaming and everything, Bruce stands up and he starts yelling, "I'm Batman.
I'm
Spartacus.
I'm
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus."
Very much, very reminiscent of The Dark Knight. Right?
Yeah. So he yells, "I'm Batman," but everybody else is so loud that you can't hear him.
You can't hear him. Right. Meanwhile, the Graysons are trying to figure out a way to lift this comically large bomb up through the hole on the top of the big top.
Yeah. So so because one of Two-Face had hooked it to a cable and he was raising it up so that when it explodes, it kind of rains down on everybody.
Yes.
And so while this is going up, then Bruce, when he realizes he's not being heard, decides to go and take out all of Two-Face's henchmen and try to get to Two-Face. So he's kind of sneaking around, beating people up. Meanwhile, the Graysons are trying to stop this bomb. They're using all of their trapeze skills.
Yeah, they're doing an able job.
Yes, they are. To try, their plan is to basically get the bomb, close enough to the side, to the wall, to where Dick can then get it and take it out the roof. Because there's a perfectly round opening in the roof that's just the right size for this big bomb.
And we saw earlier when we had an aerial shot of the Hippodrome, it's on a river within Gotham.
Yes.
Right, because you can see you had the Hippodrome, and you see a river, and then you see the downtown Gotham.
Yeah.
Right, so it seems like the plan would be to take it up through that and then drop it into that river.
Yeah.
Is kind of their plan.
So they're playing. So Dick is crawling through the rafters while his parents and his brother are trying to get this bomb to him. And so then, there's not much time left on the timer. There's only 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
So
no, it's actively counting down.
And they get it up to him. He's, working his way through the rafters and gets it up off he gets up to the roof.
Kind of the hole and up to the roof. Yeah.
And he throws it into the water and it explodes in the water.
It's perfect kind of campy comic scene now. If you imagine this in the 60s Adam West series, this is how this would have played out.
There was a scene in the 60s Adam West series where Batman is running around carrying a bomb over his head. It's very similar to this. It's a smaller bomb that Adam West has, but
he's on the outside of the tent now. But at the very just outside that hole.
Yeah, he's on the roof of the Hippodrome.
But Two-Face sees the Graysons up there, and so he's got a machine gun, and he just starts shooting at their lines, right? And then so after he does that, he just runs off, right? But
meanwhile, the Graysons fall.
The lines.
The Graysons fall in slow motion. And then by the time Dick gets back down there, he looks down and sees his parents and brother lying on the ground dead.
Dead. And you have Pat Hingle, Commissioner Gordon's looking up because he's there too. And you have Bruce Wayne, Val Kilmer, looking up. And you see him like he's panting, he's out of breath, right? And he looks down and he realizes what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
They have died. Just like he's now an orphan, just like Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. So next we have an exterior shot of Wayne Manor. And Commissioner Gordon is delivering Dick Grayson to Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
So they're driving.
Like, so he seems like, he's again, like, and not even in college, like his early 20s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so first we see the car driving up toward Wayne Manor. And Gordon is in the car, and then Dick is riding a motorcycle behind him. And they get up to Wayne Manor. Bruce meets him out in the driveway and starts to walk Dick into the house. And so as soon as Commissioner Gordon leaves, and Dick's like, oh, well, thanks, I'm out of here.
Bruce is like, what? Right?
He's like, yeah.
Like, he sees Alfred. I love how he calls Alfred Al.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but he's like, yeah, here I leave. He goes outside, and Bruce is talking with him, and he looks at the motorcycle, and he's got a helmet.
Well, that comes later.
Robin.
Yeah. So the explanation of the helmet comes later.
Right, but there's a robin on it.
Yeah, there's a robin on it.
What it is.
It's this black helmet with a red robin on it. But
and then Bruce says, like, well,
if you need to leave,
Circus is probably halfway to Metropolis by now,
mm-hmm.
and nearest gas station is not for miles. Like,
yeah,
I've got a pump in the garage. If you want to fill it up before you leave, you can just follow me.
Yeah, so he takes him to the garage, and when they walk in there's all these fine cars and motorcycles. It's a big garage. It's like Jay Leno's garage.
Right. Yeah. The first thing he sees is the cars. He's like, oh, this is like a car museum. And then he looks over to the other side and he sees all these classic motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
And he's impressed.
So he starts naming them off. You got this one. You got this one. This one, they only made 100 of them.
100.
And he's like, 101. They made 101. And he's like, and you've got 2 of them. It's like, yeah, but that one's not in very good shape. And so he's
like,
Dick's
he's
looking
really
at him.
Infatuated with them.
Yeah. And so then Bruce is like, well, if I could find somebody that could fix it up for me, that could fix one of these up, then, they could have it as a fee. And
yeah.
So I love it. Alfred comes walking in with a tray with a sandwich on it. And he offers it to Dick, and Dick's like, no, I'm out of here anyway. So, but then after Bruce offers, one of the bikes, if Dick sticks around and fixes it, then Alfred's like, well, I guess the dogs are going to eat nice tonight. They're going to eat well tonight.
Because I was like, wait a second, Al. So he stays. At least it's heavily implied that he stays.
Yeah. So then we have Alfred showing Dick to his room, and that's when the explanation of the Robin comes in. So basically his dad's line broke one day when they were doing their trapeze stuff, and Dick came swooping in like a robin and saved him. I don't know why they chose Robin as the bird that would swoop in to save him. Because there are other birds that are more likely to swoop in like that. Like a falcon or a hawk. Something that's not a robin. But yeah. But
hey,
they have to have a way for him to get his superhero name anyway.
An origin for the name.
Yeah. So, anyway.
And it cuts down to the next, lower level of Wayne Manor.
No, but then he also, because Dick is unpacking and he pulls out his Flying Grayson's outfit.
Oh, that's right. He tells Alfred to throw it away.
Which is the classic Robin suit.
Yes, the
classic from the comics. And so, he tells Alfred to throw it away because he doesn't need it anymore. And Alfred's like, well,
I'll keep it here.
Yeah, I'll keep it here just in case.
Alfred knows.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Alfred knows. He's been through this before.
Yes.
That's right. Then it cuts down to the lower level, like one of the main like areas of Bruce kind of hangs around with his fireplace and does his brooding.
Now, when is it that Nigma dropped off the next riddle? Was it before the circus or was it here?
I think it was here.
Because it's at night. He rides up on a bike, like on a bicycle, to the outer gate of Wayne Manor, and he sticks a riddle to it.
What was that riddle?
That riddle. I will tell you what it is. So that riddle is: tear one off and scratch my head. What once was red is black instead.
Oh yeah, the match.
Yes.
Yep. So you have a match and you have a clock.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not where the real clues are. Anyway, so he's down there. No, he's. I don't know how much they show of Wayne Manor in this movie, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it, but he's having kind of like these nightmares of when his parents were murdered, right? And he's kind of taking the blame, and he's talking with Alfred about it. And that might be when, like, I don't know if he looks at the riddle then, but he definitely gets it. So, so anyway, so we get back finally to like Two-Face. We see like his
Two-Face's lair.
It's
right? Set up. It's like an 80s sitcom.
It is, isn't it?
When there's two kids that share a room and they don't want each other on their sides, they draw a line or they put a tape line down the middle of the room. And they're like, don't cross the line. It's like that. But half the room is dark and gothic. The other half is bright and cheerful.
Yep. And very like fancy and posh.
Yeah.
Right. And so the one side would be Sugar, because there's two chicks. He has two chicks.
Mm-hmm.
There's Sugar on the one side, which is Drew Barrymore. Yeah. The other side is the goth is Spice, Sugar and Spice,
which is Debbie Mazar.
And and they're going back and forth, and they're talking about, oh, I made you this dinner.
I made your favorite. This dinner.
yeah, I made your favorite, right?
He's like, no, I made your favorite.
And you kind of realize, like, Two-Face is kind of like Gollum.
Mm-hmm.
He's conflicting personalities.
Yeah.
But that's when the Riddler comes in as they're talking about all this, right? And the Riddler loves what he did with the place.
Yes. It's so you. And so you.
So Jim Carrey.
Yeah. And so, right away, Two-Face just wants to kill him.
Yes.
But Riddler is there with a proposal. He wants to form a partnership because he knows that they both hate Batman. And they want him dead.
Yep.
Well,
that's what he says.
Riddler,
Like,
Riddler wants Bruce Wayne dead. He doesn't really give two shits about Batman. But he knows that Two-Face wants Batman dead.
Well, it's Batman dead. And he doesn't give two shits about Bruce Wayne.
And so Riddler, he tells Two-Face that he will help him figure out who Batman is. And when Two-Face asks him how, that's when he shows him his invention.
Yes. Right? And he puts it on Sugar and Spice and on Harvey or Two-Face. Mm-hmm. And you see what's going on through all their heads. Right?
And they're all watching Looney Tunes.
I'm glad Looney Tunes exists.
Sugar is watching, one of the episodes with like angels and stuff, and Spice is like watching the one where Sylvester gets sent to hell. But yeah, and then he puts the other piece on Two-Face's forehead, and so that the brainwaves from Sugar and Spice get transferred into Harvey. And so he gets a taste of what Enigma can do.
Yes.
And he wants more, but Riddler's like, nope. The first taste is free.
It's going to cost you, right? It's like, and he's like, I need capital to mass produce this. And you can help me get that. I'll help you get Batman.
Yeah.
And he's like, and that's what he calls it. He calls it, I'll help you solve the greatest riddle of all, the mother of all riddles, who is Batman? And then Two-Face is like, you violated the sanctity of our lair. He still kind of wants to kill him.
Yep. So
he's like, you know what?
He's like, we'll let the coin. We'll let the coin decide.
The coin.
So he flips the coin. We don't see what it landed on, but
then we get the montage.
It cuts right into a montage of Two-Face and Riddler robbing banks, and Riddler building his, mass producing his box. He calls it the box.
This is so 60s Adam West Batman of like bank robberies and jewelry store robberies and
big money bags with the dollar signs on them.
Right. And so there's a scene in one of the it's like a bank, and Two-Face punches out a guard. And Riddler's like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. How do you do that?
Yeah.
So
he tries to punch him out. He hurts his hand.
He's like, ow. So you get through all that, and then you have like Batman and Bruce Wayne. They're watching the newscast. Talking about, there's this string of robberies with Two-Face and a new villain that's green clad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no one knows who he is, but they're also talking about this new sensation from Edward Nygma, right? And how the electronic stores can't keep it on the shelves.
He calls it the box.
In the box, and you see a kind of a press conference of Nygma. Now he's in a suit. He's not in the Riddler right now. It's just he's talking about it. He's in front of his factory. Right? He's obviously got his capital very quickly. We don't know how quickly. We don't know how much
He's acting
time
much less
elapsed.
eccentric than he was earlier in the movie when he met Bruce.
That is true. Right? And so, right? And then at some point, I guess if I'm looking at this right, I think he gets another riddle at this point while all this is going on, right? Because the third riddle is about the chess pawns.
Yeah. So, he gets another riddle. And that riddle is, the 8 of us go forth, not back, to protect our king from a foe's attack. And it's chest bonds.
Which is very obvious. It's chest bonds, right? And like Bruce is trying to find a connection between all the answers.
Yeah.
Right. And Alfred's like, well, maybe that's what the riddle is. Like, that's so they're going forth with that. And then we have Robin or Dick. He's just really interested in this one place where it's always locked.
Yes.
Right.
So first, we have Dick doing laundry.
That's right.
And in my notes for this scene, I wrote laundrate or AKA wash foo. So, yeah, he's basically, using his socks as nunchucks, and instead of putting his clothes, like when he takes them out of the washer, instead of putting them in the dryer, which is right there. There is a dryer.
It's right there.
There is a dryer in this laundry room. It's right next to the washer. He decides to put them on a clothesline, which, I get it if he has clothes that can't go in the dryer, but everything that he was pulling out of the washer could go in the dryer. But he's like swinging them around, wringing them out, like with fancy ways, like doing kung fu and all this.
Alfred, he's ironing something.
Yes, he's ironing something. Meanwhile, Dick is doing martial arts with laundry, getting water everywhere.
It's everywhere, but he mops it up at the end at least.
Yeah.
There's something about this that they spend it's like 2 minute scene that they spend on this. We watch them do it. Like this could be a very easy deleted scene.
Yeah.
But they keep it in here.
At one point
they don't do anything else with it.
At one point he's swinging a piece of clothing around and he throws it down and catches it between his toes and uses his toes to wring it out. It's like,
And then he leaves. He winks at Alfred.
Yes. He winks at Alfred. And then this is where the door comes in, where there's this one door that's locked. He has, Dick has access to every door in the mansion except this one. And he has
Master Wayne keeps his dead wives.
Yes.
Right. So now Bruce. I guess Bruce did go back out to see. I guess he went out to see Chase again because now it's just Dick, and Alfred in Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
Right. And Dick finds he finds his window to check on the door, and he's doing acrobat.
Yeah, he's in the rafters.
Wayne Manor.
He's like swinging on the rafters, and he's just waiting for Alfred to come over to that door. And so Alfred, looks around, doesn't see Dick anywhere because he's hanging up in the rafters. And I guess he's just up on like the catwalk. Up at the top of the stairs. But he's sort of hiding. So Alfred doesn't see him. And he opens up the door and goes in and just lets the door shut behind him rather than shutting it himself. But once he walks through that door and starts going down the stairs that are on the other side of it, that's when Dick jumps from the top of the stairs and onto the rafters, and he's swinging. And he could have just run down the stairs.
Yes.
He took so much time swinging from the rafters that door should have shut.
Yeah, it should have.
He could have just run down the stairs. He had a direct line to the door. It was right at the bottom of the stairs. But
instead,
no,
he does all these flips and turns, and then
he was in the circus, so he's got to do that.
The door because he kind of crashes into it essentially.
Kind of crashes into it. Finds out the hard way. There's stairs right on the other side, and he just tumbles down the stairs.
Then all he hears is intruder alert, intruder alert,
intruder alert, intruder alert, intruder alert.
And then he turns around and there's Alfred.
Yep, there's Alfred standing there.
Just gives a little wave.
Looking at him. And Alfred's like, you know my secret. I'm Batman.
And then he blows his brains out.
Yeah, because when Dick goes down there, then everything turns on. You know, the lights all come on. The Batmobile kind of raises up from where it is.
Yeah, no, it's on his little platform. It rotates around. Yes.
And it's like, there's just, I guess, sensors that just turn everything on when whoever walks into the Batcave. Did it do all this? So 30 seconds before, when Alfred walked in, did it do all this and then just send it all back to normal until Dick came in? And do it again?
Facial recognition that they have there? And it's only recognizes Alfred and Bruce?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so
Alfred does not kill.
No,
Dick
Alfred
Grayson
does not
here.
kill Dick Grayson. Instead, Dick steals the Batmobile.
Right. So he goes off, and we cut back, and it's back at Chase's office.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce is there, and she has a gift. She has the Malaysian doll, right? So we'll just call it intuition that you might need this.
I got you something,
right? And he starts talking about his dreams about how his parents are murdered in front of him, and then
his dream is their funeral. Right?
Yes.
But there's this new addition to the dream that's never been there before. There's this red leather book.
The red leather book, right.
And he's been trying to figure out what the significance of this book is.
And she's saying, well, this is a repressed memory coming back to you. So it's like, this is like some forgotten pain that's come back, right? And then you hear a tea kettle. She boxes and she drinks tea.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
She leaves her room, and he kind of goes to her desk. And he sees all these magazines and newspaper articles about Batman.
Yes.
And, she comes back in, right? And then he's like, she's trying to ask some other questions. Like, well, is there an aspect of your parents' death that you have not faced yet? Or you've not, have decided not to, actually, encounter? And he looks down at the desk, like, I think I'm going to leave the two of you together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, I think he's fascinating, Batman, right? He's such a profile, I just, at least on a clinical level,
Yeah.
that he's cursed and has some great penance to do, right? What did he do to deserve this life of nightly, torture and torment, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, well, is it more than just professional?" She was like, "Are you jealous?" He's like, it's like I can't be jealous of Batman, right? And she could tell that that Bruce is hiding something from her, right?
Yeah.
She wants to get closer to him. She wants mini Bruce. But
yes,
he's guarded.
She wants a little Bruce.
Anyway, and then it kind of gets into the class we're all two people, one in the daylight, the one in the daylight, one we keep in the shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets a little message. He's got an early Apple Watch.
Yes. Yeah. So it's Alfred on his watch. And he's telling him, we have a problem, sir. Master
Dick.
Master Dick. Did he say Master Dick or Master Grayson? I think he says Master Dick. Master Dick is taking the car.
He's like, the Rolls?
The Rolls? No, the other car. The Bentley? No, the other car. The other car. Finally, Bruce gets it. He's like, oh. And then it cuts to the Batmobile driving through Gotham.
And he's joyriding.
And, he's pulling up to girls on the corner. And he's like, hey, girl, you want to come for a ride?
Not just any girls. It's in vogue.
Yeah. Yes. He goes up to it in Vogue.
If you want to know how 90s this movie is.
Oh, this movie is incredibly 90s.
And then he figures out how to open the hood of the Batmobile.
Yes.
Right? Because meanwhile, there's these thugs, and they're trying to.
No, well, first
they're like
when he's driving, there's this girl that's being chased by these thugs, and here's her scream.
By these thugs.
Yeah.
Right, and the Batmobile kind of pulls up, right, and the thugs that have the girl like, hold up, it's Batman, right? Because he opens the top.
He opens the top. And like, that's not like, Batman. That's Batboy.
Meanwhile, the girl's being chased. She's like defeated. Like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah. She's like, I'm gonna die because this kid just came in.
It ain't the Bat. And then, but Dick still says like, "Hey, no, let her go." Right? And like, oh, like
he's like, what? I left my suit at home, okay?
But then, he's able to like fight him off, beat him up. He gets the girl, and she's like, "Oh,
he's starting to fight him off, but he's sort of getting overpowered." And then Batman shows up. They see him. They see Batman.
Well, Batman does show up. No, but first he's able to protect the girl first because he kisses her.
Yeah,
right. She's like, "Oh, don't you get to kiss the girl?" And he kisses her, and then he's like, "Oh, I can get used to this." And she runs off. She's safe.
Yeah.
And then he runs off to try to get the rest of them, and then it ends up it's a whole gang of guys.
Yeah.
And this entire scene, it's neon.
Yes. Everybody is wearing like neon body paint.
Are wearing neon. And it gets into the little layer, and there's neon everywhere.
Yeah.
This scene is like
total Schumacher.
In Vogue, it's Schumacher and neon. Right?
So.
But this is where it gets very like Batman-esque also, because like he's like, there's no way he's going to be able to take out all these guys. They're coming down, catwalks and fire escapes.
Yeah. Right? Like this gang just like quadrupled in size.
But then they look up, and then you have Batman. He's in this cowl, and he's menacing, and they see him.
He's up on the fire escape, and he comes down, and he's fighting them off. The ones that don't initially run away, he's fighting them, and once he and Dick, fight off all the gang members, then.
He starts wailing
Dick starts wailing on Batman. He starts punching him, telling him it's his fault that his parents are dead. And all this because he should have saved him.
It's like, if Bruce Wayne would have saved your family, he could have. Right? He's like, it should have been you. And then he's like, they get back to the Batcave, right? Because they drive back.
But if Dick had seen, if he had been watching what was going on, instead of being up in the rafters playing with his balls, then he would have seen that Bruce was there taking out all the henchmen and trying to take out Two-Face.
This is a good point.
So, anyway, they get back to the Batcave, and this is a part that I've never understood, right? So at least just the way that Dick Grayson says it, the way that it's so Dick is pleading with Batman to let him be his partner, right? To let him go out and fight crime with him because he wants to kill Two-Face. He says, when I was fighting those thugs, I imagined that it was him I was fighting. Even when I was fighting you, he wasn't fighting Batman.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't fighting Batman.
Batman wasn't even fighting him.
No, Batman was just sitting there. He just had his arms out to block his hits, his punches, and he wasn't fighting him. But I always thought it was weird that he threw in that. Even when I was fighting you.
They threw some punches, but
None of
they
them
didn't do
landed.
anything. Batman he just stood there.
A fight typically is at least two people involved, and yeah, it wasn't a fight.
That would have been perfect for just Batman to just have gone ahead and crane kick Robin. Alfred's in the back. Put him in a body bag.
Go back and listen to our Karate Kid episode.
But anyway, they kind of get through it, and then like Dick says, like, you wouldn't understand. And then Bruce is like, yeah, I would.
Yeah, I would. I mean, and here's the thing though about that. So Dick is talking about how he wouldn't understand his parents being murdered. It's not a secret that Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered.
Right. Like Bruce Wayne is not just like one of the most famous men in Gotham.
No, his parents were very, very famous in Gotham.
Very famous. And he is very famous. He is one of the most famous men in all of like America and the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People know who Bruce Wayne is.
It was no secret that Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered. So somewhere along the line, Dick had to have heard about Thomas and Martha Wayne, being murdered right in front of their son.
Yes. But here he doesn't know. So, but he just tells him, like, you can kill Two-Face, but your pain's not going to die with him. Or with Harvey, it's kind of how he says it. He calls him. Yeah. He's Batman. He won't call him Two-Face. He'll still call him Harvey. He realizes it's still Harvey
because Harvey was his friend.
Yes, Harvey was his friend. Right. So, but it's even beyond that. It's like, he just tells him, like, I'm a part of this, whether you like it or not. And so, Batman kind of goes off, and Dick goes off, and Batman's just kind of, Bruce kind of talks with, Alfred for a little bit. He's like, well, young men need direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's seeing a little bit of Bruce and Dick. For, obvious reasons. But, so... We cut back to Gotham. There's a newscaster, and they're talking about how all of Gotham society has descended upon this event that's happening.
Yeah.
Enigma Tech is introducing their latest innovation. It's gonna be their best box yet, right?
Yeah.
The best tech yet. Bruce is gonna be there for this, right? It's the at the Ritz Gotham is where it is,
At
right?
the Ritz Gotham. Yes.
All Gotham's finest people are going to be there. Right? And so you have all the media, and they look at Jim Carrey or the Enigma, and like, oh no, Mr. Enigma, what's it like to have your face on every magazine and newspaper in Gotham? He's like, oh yeah, and he's flattered, right? Right? And then this other like tabloid journalist is like, oh, what does it feel like to be the most eligible bachelor? And he's got Sugar.
Yes, he's got Sugar with him. Sugar is his arm candy.
Right? And now he's even more flattered about this, right? But then everyone sees Bruce come in. They're like, oh, Brucey, right? Like, over here, right? And, Sugar looks at us, like, looks over to Edwards like, how come you don't look as good in a suit? He just sounds like, shut up, you're here to work. That must feel good. Anyway.
Yeah. So he goes and he meets up with Bruce, and they're talking a little bit. And
everyone's like, oh, people, the news people, they're all around us. They're talking, they're catching this. And someone's like, oh, is it true that Enigmatech's going to buy Wayne Enterprises? Bruce didn't say anything about that. And then, everyone's like, oh, yeah, well, are you old news? And Bruce is like, yeah. I mean, Edward's like, yes.
So, how many banks did they rob? Because I get that, he's been making a lot of sales on his box. But in order to build this company to what it is at this point in such a short time, they would have had to have stolen billions of dollars.
Yes. No, they needed a lot of capital to get up that quickly and to get everything reduced to that level. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I'm not certain, but they did it.
Yeah. Because, this seems like it's just a few days later.
Yeah. But, again, that fits in with the campiness of the 60s.
Yeah.
West Batmans.
Yeah.
But Edward is having fun kind of rubbing this into Bruce. Like, oh, yeah, you could have had this tech.
Yep.
But you don't have it.
Yep. So then there's a demonstration of what this new box does. And so they use Commissioner Gordon.
Demonstrate it.
They demonstrate it on Commissioner Gordon. So he goes into this room where, there's a monitor outside that everybody can see what's going on in there. And all of a sudden, Gordon is on a beach.
Drinking Mai Tais
and getting laid. There's these grass skirt clad women who are putting a lei around his neck.
Everyone applauds, they scream, and they all kind of continue with their night, right?
So rather than just visual, seeing it, it's actually interactive hologram, basically, that, you can, rather than just see it, you can feel it, you can, all your senses are activated.
Right. And then it can project how you're doing that to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because everyone can see exactly what's happening to Gordon.
Yeah, so then they put a woman in there, and all of a sudden, she's got all this jewelry.
Right? So they go through the test, and then, Bruce is still interested in all of what it is, right? Mm-hmm. He's looking at it, and they have sugars there, and it's like, oh, no, are you interested? And because earlier, Nigma offered for Bruce to try it out, and Bruce wouldn't.
Yeah.
And Nick was like, oh, you're too timid, you're too scared. Right?
Yeah, so Bruce is around the back of the machine, at the control panel, and he's looking at it, and Sugar walks up on him, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm just trying to figure out how you turn it off. And there's this vial of glowing green liquid that, she pulls out of the machine. She's like, there you go. And she hands it to him. And he holds on to it and walks away. Meanwhile, she pulls out another vial of the glowing green liquid and sticks it right back in the machine when his back's turned. And so, thinking that he had turned the machine off, Bruce walks in there. And Nigma sees what Bruce sees. And it's just this big bat. This giant bat just flying toward him.
Yep.
And had we gotten... Was it when Bruce was talking to Chase in her office when he stumbled across the magazine articles with Batman and all that? Was that when he told her about him first discovering the Batcave?
No, that's later.
Yeah, that's right. So I thought it was later, but yeah. Because it's after he actually realizes what the book is.
While he's in there, Two-Face makes an entrance because we haven't seen Two-Face in a while.
Yeah. So Two-Face busts in the doors, and he's got all his henchmen in there,
and you can tell that Nigma is not expecting this.
Yeah, but he's going around. He's stealing all the wallets and jewelry and everything off of the guests. Meanwhile, Nigma is like, "Hey, what are you doing? You're ruining my my event here."
Right, and meanwhile, Batman, Bruce Wayne, he realizes this, and he kind of goes out like a back entrance to where Alfred's parked.
Yeah,
right, and he gets in there, and he's telling Alfred, it's this emergency, right?
Yeah. There's not another pneumatic tube system.
No. So he gets in there, and the henchmen are going through, and then Chase Meridian's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going through, and all of a sudden, through like the skylight in there, Batman comes crashing through.
Yes, crashing
there's
through.
This guy that's standing behind Nicole Kidman. He's just like, Batman, yeah,
yeah. And then Nigma leans over to Two-Face. He's like, "Your entrance was good. His was better."
So Batman fights all these guys off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, meanwhile, Two-Face has this he has a contingency plan, right?
Yeah.
He tells his henchmen, "Oh, it's just we're gonna move on to phase 2, right?" Batman goes over to Chase. She's like, "My place, midnight." Right. So, meanwhile, we also get Dick. He meets up with with Alfred. He's like, "Alfred, this is an emergency." And Alfred has his suit. So
yes, Alfred has his trapeze outfit.
Yes.
And so
Batman chases the henchmen out of the hotel, wherever they're hosting us, and he kind of chases them down, I guess, into the sewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, but they have it set up where they have the whole kind of tubing, right, that you kind of would get sometimes to vent out the gas from the sewers, right? So he slides through that, right? This is not his pneumatic.
It's not his pneumatic tubing, but we do get some more Batman in a tube. The Bat Tube.
I can't wait till we do the Running Man, because there's tubing in the Running Man.
There is. There is. And if we ever do Thor Ragnarok, there's tubing in that too.
Oh my. So they trap him like in a section down there in the sewers, in the tunnels. Excuse me. And then they try to, they pump it full of gas and they try to blow him up, right? But, he's Batman. He has an outer shell of his suit that he uses to protect himself.
Yeah.
That as the fire is consuming all around him, right?
Yeah. You don't try to blow up Batman.
No. And the fire's still obviously got kind of going on parts of the water here in the sewers, and then it's a really cool shot of him walking through the flames.
Yeah.
Right? And then Two-Face is like, "Why won't you just die?" And they just start shooting at him, right? And like everything kind of collapses. Batman falls, and there's all the debris on top of him, And they think they've won, right?
Mhm.
So they leave, right? And all of a sudden, see this hand get through all that debris,
Yep, and
grabs
grab
his hand.
Batman and pull him out. And it's Dick, dressed in his Flying Grayson's outfit.
And he's kind of suspended. He's inverted, right? And he's doing his trapeze artist type of skills on like a grapple. There's like a grappling hook in the line. And he pulls him out and saves him. And then, and it's funny about it too. Is like, Batman's still, or Bruce is still like not happy with him. So you could have been killed. What are you doing there? It's like, you got a gratitude problem, Bruce. It's like, I need a name. I don't know, Nightwing. Right. Again,
Nightwing, Batboy.
Nightwing. Anyway, so it's like, what's a good sidekick name? Right? And then Bruce is like, how about Dick Grayson, college student?
Yeah, Dick Grayson, college student. But yeah, so we don't get his name yet.
No, we don't.
But yeah, he's trying to figure out what a good sidekick name would be. So,
and he's angry.
Yeah. Then we get another riddle.
So he marches off, and then he like hands Alfred his suit, like, hang this up next to the bat suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then we get another riddle, don't we? Or does that come later?
That comes later. Because that comes when they're at.
Yeah, that's right.
The two of them are at the.
That's right. Yes. That comes later. Yeah, that comes later.
So now it's just right now Bruce and Alfred talking, right? And he's like, like he's like, he needs guidance, like you did. And he's like, there's consequences. And then that's when Bruce starts talking about how Batman, or how Chase calls Batman a curse, right? And Alfred's encouraging him. He wants Bruce to get a lady. He wants Bruce to get, his groove on, his Mac on.
Yeah. He wants Bruce to partake in the chase.
And Bruce is just like, she was Batman, not Bruce Wayne.
Because so Chase was Bruce's date to Nigma's event.
Yes.
And when they met, then he introduced Chase to Nigma, or she introduced herself to him. And when she said her name's Chase, his response is, "And what a fine pursuit you are."
That's right.
Or what a fine pursuit you must be. But yeah. So anyway, so he invites Chase over to the manor.
Yeah. So I mean, he gets there and invites her to the manor, and then they make the date. We get a scene of Two-Face and Riddler, and Riddler shows Two-Face what Bruce saw.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the bat that we talked about. So they both realize that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yep.
Right?
Meanwhile, all this time, we forgot to mention before, was during this, there was another montage basically of Nigma's rise to power.
Yes.
All right. As everybody's buying the box and all that, you see all these green, sort of snaky waves coming in.
Families is all watching at the box, and they're kind of zombies, right?
Yeah. And and Nigma and Two-Face are sitting there. They're kind of fighting over the suction cup to put on their foreheads.
It's the Odd Couple.
And then finally there's just this throne that Nigma's sitting in, that Riddler's sitting in that. He's a lot. There's just this big, basically like a green waterfall of brainwaves that's just getting sucked into his head. It's just flowing over his head.
Boom, boom, boom. Right.
Yeah. So Bruce invites Chase over to the manor, and I love it
before she gets.
Oh, go ahead.
Go on. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say when you go first.
I was saying, like, before she gets there, like he are having another conversation,
mm-hmm.
right? And Dick is just still kind of talking like how like someone might talk, a man of his age might talk to his father. Like, I gotta go my own way. My dad taught me that, and my way goes to Two-Face. You gotta help me. And then he's like, well, we can find Harvey. You can kill him. What do you do after that? And Dick just is silent. Bruce is like, well, yeah, exactly. You'll be alone, like me. You gotta let this go. Like, Dick, I'm your friend. Right? And then Dick's like, well, no, I don't need a friend. I'm your partner, and Two-Face is going to pay. Right? And then he says, like, guess what? All right. Well, Chase is coming to dinner. I'm going to tell her everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Batman's not going to be any more after this. Right?
Yeah.
So they go upstairs, right? And it's Halloween. It is
Halloween. Yes, it's Halloween. And so when Chase gets to the manor, she pulls up in a taxi.
Yes.
And I love the taxis in Gotham because, the taxi sign on top, it looks like the Gotham skyline. It's not just your typical taxi sign.
No. And this is actually a really awesome little like point in the movie of just like details like that they throw in the production design that really sell it.
Yeah.
So yeah, she pulls up. And, she says, like, well, I asked you here, like, because I want to tell you something. I got a dick in a box.
Well, he doesn't keep dick in a box, though.
Well, okay, we forgot to mention earlier when he goes to see her, after the scene at the hotel, right? And he almost dies. He comes to her when she's sleeping in her bed.
Yes.
She sleeps commando.
She sleeps completely naked with satin sheets that are like perfectly tucked around her body.
And he comes to her window like Dracula comes to his ladies of the night. And he walks in. She keeps the satin sheets around her because, she can't expose her lady bits.
Mm-hmm.
They kiss, and then she's like, "Oh, I think I want somebody else."
Yeah,
and he turns around. Like,
he turns around,
okay.
He's like, "It's okay.
I understand."
He turns around and just gives this big grin. You rarely see Batman smile.
Batman's pants grew 3 sizes that day. Anyway. So they're back at Wayne Manor.
And Batman is deciding that he's going to tell her he figured out what this red book is in his dreams.
Yes.
It's his father's journal. Because he was saying that he had the dream again and there was more to it. And so he got this red book off of the table at the funeral, and he ran out of the building with it. And he just ran until he fell through this cave. He fell through this hole in the ground into a cave.
And it's very similar to like if you Batman Begins when he's playing hide and seek as a kid,
and he falls through the well.
Rachel, and he falls through the well, and all these bats fly around him. Right? It's similar to that, except this time it's just like this one bat that flies. This giant bat that he's like. He realized like this has to be his symbol, right?
Yeah, I mean, he says he was scared at first, but just at first. And then decided to embrace it.
So they're talking, and then there's a doorbell, and Alfred looks through, it's trick or treat, and there's these kids, and he gives out candy to kids, which is weird because it's Wayne Manor. We've been told there's not a gas station for miles. There's a gate, and there's like 5 or 6 kids just show up together. You know?
But the kids show up at the gate, and they, I guess, ring the bell, and Alfred opens the gate, and Riddler and Two-Face are waiting outside. They're hiding outside the gate, and as the kids come through, they sneak behind them. So
all power of these kids for understanding. You know what? We'll go to the Wayne Manor.
They got the full size candy bars there. Bruce Wayne can afford the full size candy bars.
So, it cuts back, and it's kind of stormy, a little bit stormy. You can hear some like thunder in the background, right? And and so he sees the he's talking about this was my destiny, this figure in the dark, right?
Mm-hmm. And
it's like I would use this image to strike terror in the hearts of those who did evil.
But this whole time that he's talking about this, right? This whole time that he's going on about, like, he's having this revelation, right? He's having this revelation, this breakthrough. It's
a massive breakthrough.
This massive breakthrough. And Chase just wants his little Batman. She's not listening to a word he's saying. She's just trying to get him to bed.
It's like, slow the roll. We can talk about this breakthrough later. You need a breakthrough me.
I mean, she's coming on to him while he's trying. Well, he's trying to like explain like these dreams to her and trying. He's.
This is not your Christian Bale Batman. He's a playboy. That Batman didn't even start out to be a playboy. He kind of had to keep up that look, right? No, here we go. Val Kilmer's
he's bearing his soul. He's bearing his soul to her.
It's like she's like, I want to bear your dick.
Yeah, yeah,
not that dick. Penis? You mean coitus? Oh, there's our Big Lebowski reference.
We already had a Big Lebowski reference earlier, by the way. We were talking about the beeper.
But and he's like, Alfred's like, vagina?
Yeah, I mean, she wants to jump up and down with Bruce on a trampoline, being held by a too excited trampoline guy.
Hey! You got see too excited trampoline guy there. You got Brandt. He's on the other side, and they're just tossing up Val Kilmer and Nicole Kidman. This is what causes the infidelity of Eyes Wide Shut.
Yes.
All right. So all this is happening, and like she's like, you know what? No, I this needs to happen now. Like I wasn't even wearing panties tonight, and there's another doorbell, right?
Yep.
And they get this trick or treat, right? And Alfred opens the door, and it's Robin and it's not Robin.
It's Riddler and Two-Face.
They knock out Alfred and they put him into the coat closet.
Poor Alfred.
I know. Right? So they go off. And Riddler has just one rule for Two-Face, like no killing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The henchmen come through. They're wreaking havoc and Two-Face, he's just kind of watching them do that. And Riddler, he's looking for Bruce's secret.
Yeah. And so at one point in here, Two-Face always relies on his coin.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because they get the jump on Bruce and Chase.
And they're trying to fight them off, and he's just sitting there and he's just flipping the coin.
Yeah, he's flipping the coin. So here's the thing. So when he's making a decision, he never flips the coin more than once, right? He flips the coin once, and then he goes by with whatever the coin tells him. He flips it 3 times this time.
Yes, he does.
Now, a lot of people think that, that's out of character for him because he's flipping it more than once when he's trying to figure out like if he's going to kill Bruce or not. But he's only flipping it once for Bruce. He's also flipping it once for Chase, and he's flipping it once for Alfred. Because there are 3 people in there, and so he flips it 3 times. So that is why he flips it 3 times.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because at this point, Dick is not in the manor right now.
He's not in the manor. Yeah. That they know of, right? So
at least not in this scene.
Yeah. So he's doing that. Riddler's off, and he's like, if I was a superhero, where would I hide? And then he finds the lair because it ends up being that easy.
It's just a door. He doesn't have a Shakespeare statue that has a flip-top head that he's a button like it is in the Music Show.
I was he's like, spank me.
But then he's got all these little bat bombs.
Yes.
These little wind-up toys, these green, like, bat-looking wind-up toys that are bombs. So he's, tossing them around, blowing up.
Tossing them all over the Batcave.
Blowing up the Bat computer, blowing up all the different things. Then he's got a big bag of them. In a green bag, a green, like, burlap sack with question marks all over it.
Yes.
Because he's Riddler.
He
just drops it in the driver's seat of the Batmobile and just lets the Batmobile blow up.
Mm-hmm. And before he leaves, he gets in like a pitcher stance.
Mm-hmm.
He looks around. You get the dude.
Yeah.
He throws it
and then he spits.
And you get the little spit sound effect. And he heads back up. Right? And at this point, Two-Face gets the result he wants, and he shoots Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce gets hit, like, kind of like in the back shoulder.
Well, right? I thought it like grazed his head.
That's what
because it knocks him out.
Yeah, it knocks him out, and he falls down.
He falls down the stairs into the Batcave, and he's unconscious. The henchmen,
they get Chase, right, and Riddler comes back up. He's like, it's like, and they're looking, there's like, don't kill him. If you kill him, he won't learn nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they take Chase, but they leave Bruce.
Yeah.
Right? And they need him. They want him to kind of chase after them at some point, right? They leave their last riddle as they leave.
Yes.
Right? And he sets it, and like this is like it's like almost like a metronome. It's going back and forth,
going back and forth, back and forth,
back and forth.
And
right? He wakes up.
He sees it.
But he wakes up, and like Alfred's over him. He's like, Master Bruce, right?
There's another riddle.
And he calls him like, how are you, young man, as he wakes up? And he's like, you haven't called me that in a long time. Are you okay? He's like, well, they took Dr. Meridian and Dick's run away. The cave's been destroyed. And there's another riddle.
Mm-hmm.
And so the riddle is...
We're 5 little items of an everyday sort. You'll find us all in a tennis court. And so...
This is one of the more clever riddles.
Yeah, it's one of the more clever riddles. But, Bruce fairly quickly deduces that it's vowels.
Yes.
All 5 vowels are found in a tennis court.
Tennis is E and I. You got the O and U in court.
Mm-hmm.
But then they realize there's something more to this riddle. So they keep thinking about what it is.
And each of the riddles had a number in it. So they figured that has to be the connection. And so they're...
So you had what? 13 was the first one, right?
Yep.
Because you had you don't have 13. The next, what was the next riddle? Riddle 2?
The next one was 8. It was no. The next one was 1. Tear 1 off and scratch my head.
That's right.
And then you have 8. And then you have 5. So 13, 1, 8, and 5.
Right.
And so
first they're thinking about 1 as being A. I would say 13 is M. 1 is A.
Yeah, because they're
8
going
is
by
H.
the letter of, where that letter falls in the alphabet. So what number that letter is.
Yes.
So
and then they would say 5. 5 would be E. It's like MAHE. And like, that doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. So what if
and what if 1 and 8
is supposed to be 18, which makes it MRE, Mr. E.
No, Mr. E.
And what's another word? What's another word for mystery? Enigma. Mr. Enigma.
Enigma. Edward Enigma. Right? And Bruce finally feels vindicated that Stickley's suicide was a murder, right? And that Enigma is who they're actually after.
Yes. Which
I like this is one of my favorite parts of the movie because like it's Bruce and Alfred solving this together.
Yes.
It's a great kind of chemistry between the two of them.
Yeah.
And it's just like Bruce doing detective work.
Mm-hmm. You don't get that too often in the movies.
No. So it's a nice little touch to the movie. I like it a bunch. Right? And so it's like, okay, well, I love the line. Alfred's like, you're really quite bright, despite what the people say.
So they're in the cave and everything's destroyed.
The bat suit's been destroyed. And
all except
the prototype.
Yeah, all except the prototype.
The sonar modifications.
Yes, the sonar modifications. He's like, well, no better time than the president to test it out. And then there's only 2 vehicles left.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's like, but shall I go by sea or air? Because there's the bat boat and the bat plane.
I like how the bat plane just hangs like a bat.
Yeah, it just hangs like a bat. So once he says that, then Dick comes walking down the stairs like, how about both? And he's all dressed up in his new crime fighting uniform,
which has sonar modification as well. Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
Yep. And
or bird. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's got an R on the chest.
Who's your tailor?
Yeah. Who's your tailor? And Alfred's like, I took the liberty, sir. But then he sees the R on his chest, and he's like, R, what does that mean? What does that stand for? And he's like, Robin. Which Batman doesn't get the reference because he wasn't part of that conversation earlier.
He was. He's like, okay. Why a Robin? Shouldn't it be like the Crow or the Raven or the Falcon?
Nightwing.
The Peacock. Peacocks are fucking angry ass birds.
D'Artagnan.
Oh boy. I love how Vanilla was like, Robin's like, the Riddler and Two-Face can make a pretty lethal combination. And I'm like, can they? Have they really demonstrated that?
So,
and
after convincing
2 against 1, 2 against 2 are better odds.
Yeah. So after finally convincing Batman to let Robin be his sidekick, Batman takes the Batwing and Robin takes the Batboat.
Yes. So they're flying, they're cruising, they're speeding towards Enigma's headquarters, which is really really impressive.
Yeah. But
this is really comic book looking how they built the exterior of this. Yes. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's on like a fake island in the middle of. It's got to be the ocean. It's the middle of the harbor.
Yeah, it's the ocean. Yeah,
it's the middle of the harbor, and There are sea mines.
When did they have the time to make these sea mines? Were they expecting that Batman had a boat? Because they play Battleship.
Yes, they play Battleship with the sea mines. Two-Face and Riddler are in the lair playing Battleship. Each time a mine goes off, one of them's like B4, hit.
Like they were totally expecting there to be a bat boat.
Yes, and they were also coming up. They were also totally expecting there to be a bat plane. But yeah, so they end up blowing up the bat boat. And Robin just narrowly escapes. But he's in the water. Yeah. He's underwater. And they see the Batwing flying in. And so Riddler redirects the brainwave beam and uses it as a weapon. And it cuts off the wing. When did this become like a tangible beam, like laser beam?
It is now.
Yeah, so the Batwing goes plummeting into the water, and after it goes in the water, it has a special feature that, detaches the wings and basically makes it a submarine.
Yes.
So he takes it down, and there's a bunch of henchmen that are underwater. And they're about to destroy the new Batwing submarine. And so Batman launches himself out of a torpedo tube. There's another tube. Right toward Robin, and he grabs Robin, and they get out of the water, and they climb up onto the big metal island.
Holy rusted metal, Batman.
He's like, what? It's like, this island, it's made of metal. And it's holy. There's holes in it. It's holy.
It's like, oh. Val Kilmer, he delivers it to such straight face.
Yes.
This is where Val Kilmer just kills it.
Mm-hmm.
He really kills this. Like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. And then, Robin's like, this whole island is moving, right? And then they must be looking for us, right? But, Two-Face comes up and they have a fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Robin basically wins the fight, and then, it moves, so, like, Two-Face loses his balance, right? And he's kind of hanging on.
Well, before all that, so they split up. And
okay, that's right.
Batman, yes. So in the middle of this tower is basically just this big empty just shaft that Batman is climbing up. And there's like spikes on the floor, like down at the bottom of it.
At the base of it,
at the base of it. There's a little bit of water getting in there. And so he's climbing up, and there's this spiked disc that's sort of coming down, like,
right. That's right.
Yeah. So Batman is climbing up, and he's got to sort of dodge this thing, and uses some of his gadgets to knock it loose, and it falls down and crashes into the spikes below. But he gets up there.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he gets up there, and at this point, Robin lost his fight with Two-Face. Because when Batman gets up there, Two-Face and Riddler have Robin tied up and have Chase tied up.
Right.
And they're dangling.
I mean, Robin has the chance to kill Two-Face, but he won't.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, that's right.
And then Two-Face.
So Robin beats. Right. Yeah, Robin beats
him.
Two-Face. He wins the fight, but refuses to kill him. And so that's when he gets Two-Face gets the drop on him, and captures him. So you got Robin and Chase both tied up, dangling from the ceiling over this pit.
Over the pit. That's right.
Over the pit that Batman just climbed out of. And so Batman is given a choice. He can only save one of them. Who is it going to be? And
Riddler goes to this whole spiel about the two. It's like door number 1 or door number 2, right? It's like the Boy Wonder, or like I don't know how he came up with Boy Wonder that quickly, but
I don't either. But he drops them both at the same time. And for some reason...
So he has his cane as the release.
Yes, his cane, it's got a button.
And Batman has a joke for him first.
Oh, yes, the riddle. He has a riddle for him first. What was that riddle?
I know the answer is a bat.
The answer is a bat, yeah. Yeah, I see without seeing. Yes, I see without seeing. My something.
And so they have a whole thing too first, because like Batman figures out like Riddler really wants to know like everybody's secrets. And which, by the way, so Riddler goes through several costume changes here, right?
Here we go. I see without seeing. To me, darkness is as clear as daylight. What am I? And so Riddler tells him, "You fool, you're as blind as a bat."
He's like, yes. And that's when he throws like is it a flash bomb he has that he throws at?
Well, first he like these little goggles pop down over his eyes.
Oh, that's right.
And he throws a batarang.
That's what it is. Yes.
He throws it up because up at the top in the ceiling, there's the box that's filtering all these brainwaves into where Riddler is. So he throws it up there and breaks that. And then when that breaks, all the lights go out, and then Riddler just gets overloaded with brainwaves.
Right. So he's like, oh, right. Yeah. He's getting everything just downloaded so quickly. So this is what I want to think. So before we get to the next aspect of this, because I thought about this when I was watching it. So again, we talked about the costume changes that Riddler goes through. And he's gone through a few, because when he's playing Battleship with Two-Face,
he's gone through a few in this scene alone.
And now in this last scene, you finally see him at this point. And look at him. He looks like Gozer.
He really does. He really does. Go back and listen to our Ghostbusters episode. Yeah. Well, he actually kind of does have a flat top.
Aim for the flat top.
But yeah, so he...
after the battering, he causes the chaos, but he still has time to
hit the
little button on his cane.
Yeah. But yeah, he's basically getting overloaded by these brain waves, so it's basically melting his brain.
It's melting his brain. It's making him crazy.
Mm-hmm. So he hits the button. Chase and Robin fall.
They both fall. The funny thing is, like,
Robin falls way faster than Chase.
But they each have their own little tube.
Mm-hmm.
But the tube goes into the same.
Yeah, it goes into the same. Yeah.
So, but it wasn't much of a choice, because he could still do Batman can still do what he does here.
Yes. If the two tubes stayed separate from each other, then yes, he would truly he would have to choose.
It's not like, no,
they're very short
Spider-Man,
tubes
where he has to choose between the kids and Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
Right? Or there was a real choice.
Yeah.
This goes into the same tube. So he can still have a chance to save both.
Yeah.
He has a really realistic chance.
The tubes they fall into are very short, and they just go into that big pit.
Yeah.
That Batman climbed out of. So they start out, separate, but then they're together in the same area, and Robin is falling a lot faster.
He saves Chase,
which, physics would not make that so, but
no, you need something dramatic. Come on. So he's just barely able to save Robin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he dives down, grabs Chase on his way down, and then shoots his grappling hook. And as it's going up to hook up higher, he's still going down. And he grabs Robin just barely before he hits the spikes below. And he pulls everybody to freedom, up to safety.
Yep. So he gets all up there. They're kind of at the top of like that chute, right? And then Two-Face shows up. We haven't seen Two-Face in a little bit, right?
And they're on this beam.
Yes, it's a beam. And they're kind of like on separate beams, right? There's several beams kind of going across the top of this chute, right? So they're all on one and Two-Face is on the other, right? And he's got a gun. Right, and Batman's like, well, you gotta let the coin decide, right? So he's looking around, and so Two-Face decides, oh, I gotta flip my coin, see what's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
So he flips the coin, but Batman so happens to have a lot of coins himself.
Well, earlier he had found all these coins.
Oh, he did,
and he put them in his utility belt.
I forgot about that. Yes.
And so he pulls them out of the belt, and he, like, when Two-Face flips his coin, Batman throws this handful of coins up there. And so Two-Face doesn't know which one is his.
Which coins is his, and he's looking around, and
he's standing on this beam. And so, he loses balance and falls down the pit that they just got out of again. And he falls to his death. And
it's PG-13, so you don't see
him dying,
impact.
But you see him sort of sinking into the water, and his hand is sticking up, Terminator 2 style. Yeah, but it's not in a thumbs up. But so his hand is
Stay
up and it's open
for our Terminator 2 episode.
Yes. But so he's there and his hand's up and it's open, and his coin lands in the palm of his hand. And we know that it's his coin.
It's the burned side.
Because it's the burned and cut up side that's sticking up.
Which is what, that's one that comes, that means your death.
Mm-hmm. But in this case, it meant Two-Face's death.
Right? So, they get back up, to the room. Where Riddler is, right? Because, he's still up there, right?
Yeah, so Riddler, but he's basically catatonic right now. He's
and then he's looking at it. He's like, Edward, I had to say them both because you see, I'm both Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's not because I have to be both, because I choose to be both. I can be both of these and do what I need to do.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden he gets a little bit out of his little trance, and he looks at Batman, and all he sees is a dark flapping bat.
Yeah.
And he just screams, ah! Right?
Yep. And then we get a shot of the exterior of Arkham Asylum.
Of Arkham. And I love that you get the gate. It says Arkham Asylum. You get back. It's a very classic looking at Arkham Asylum. It's very well designed. And
we have Dr. Arkham. Well, they don't actually say his name in here, but he looks very similar to the comic book Dr. Arkham.
Yes. And played by Renee Auberjonois. Right? Or I guess it's what? Auberjonois. Renee Auberjonois. Right? He's done, you might know as Otto on Deep Space Nine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chef Louis in The Little Mermaid, Reverend Oliver in The Patriot. So, French dude that's done a bunch of movies. So, but yeah, I mean, he's got the very comic looking look to him, right? And he's bringing Chase down to Riddler's cell, right? Or Edward's cell. And they get there and she's speaking with him. It's like, Edward, do you know who Batman is? And he just, then, you don't hear the answer. She's like, she asks again.
He's in a straitjacket,
yes.
but it's not all tied up, right?
Yes. If I says yes, it's like, I am Batman.
And he starts flapping his arms like bat wings.
And he's laughing maniacally. She kind of nods, turns around. They close the cell, the little slat to the little window up. And she meets Batman and Alfred outside the gates of Arkham. Like, your secret's safe. Here's the question, though. We didn't bring this up earlier. Sugar and Spice were there on the island. Do they know his identity?
Well,
and where are they?
That is a good question. That is a very good question. They never make another appearance. So
they don't.
Did they die on the island?
Did they?
Were they
just
unaware of the results of
replications, and they just decide to stay silent?
Yeah. Or they just never know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Did Riddler and Two-Face just not share that information with them?
But the thing is, like, when Riddler's talking about both Chase and Robin, he's basically explaining all of it. So if they were paying attention, they should have heard it, right? So
yeah,
I don't know, but his secret's safe. And he's like, he's definitely a wacko. And Bruce is like, wacko is a technical term.
Yeah. Yeah, that was earlier. And then they said it again.
Right. And so Bruce is like, he looks
Riddler.
like at one point he finally decided to take that little Malaysian doll. He's like, well, I won't need this anymore. And he tells her, thank you for giving me a new dream. And she looks at him, and the bat signal's up, and she's like, don't work too late. I didn't make you a sandwich because I know you like drive-thru.
So then
it is an interesting dichotomy, though. Like, right? So at the beginning of the movie, he's a single dude. He gets drive-thru at night.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the movie, he's got a best friend and he's got a lady.
Yep.
Because like it ends it. You get the music. I think they show the bat signal showing up.
Mm-hmm.
We get one last shot.
Yeah.
And it's iconic, right? You got to get Batman and Robin running into the camera.
Yep. So the bat signal is it's shining on a wall, and you just see them turning the corner and running toward the light. They're just running toward the camera.
Yes.
I don't know why Schumacher wanted to put that in there because it's kind of ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Whatever.
But
okay. Yeah. And then YouTube swells up. Hold me, thrill me, kiss me, kill me.
Yep.
And you get through the credits at the end.
And then you get kissed from a rose.
I've been kissed by a rose. I love that song.
Yeah, it's a great song.
That song makes me think of middle school.
Yep.
When it was all over MTV and the radio for just 2 or 3 years straight.
Yep.
That's the end of the movie. That's Batman Forever.
Yep, that's Batman Forever. Yes, it has its issues, but it's
campy.
It's campy.
It's the appropriate campy.
Yes. It's the appropriate amount of camp.
And it's this perfect type of blockbuster that like true care went into this because like not every blockbuster has cinematography or production design at this level.
No.
It might have visual effects and the sound design and all that, but they put care into all the technical aspects of this.
Yes, they did.
And it works.
Yeah.
It's really a 90s movie.
It really is. But yeah, it is. It should not be as maligned as it is. It was unfairly tainted by Batman and Robin.
It was.
So if you have not ever seen it or haven't seen it in a while, if you've been trying to avoid it because you have such bad memories of Batman and Robin, then I suggest that you check it out. You watch it.
Form your own opinion.
Inform your own opinion on it.
It's worth rechecking out or watching for the first time.
Yeah. Watch it without Batman and Robin in your mind. Just watch it for what it is.
Exactly.
I mean, Val Kilmer was brilliant in it.
He was. He really was.
So,
not to mention Jim Carrey, which we said earlier also.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim Carrey gives one of his best performances outside of his dramatic stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah. Schumacher just lets Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey, and it shows.
He kills it, and it works completely.
Anytime that you have Jim Carrey in your movie, you need to just let him be himself. Just let him be Jim Carrey.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, yeah. Anything that we missed, I think
that wraps it up.
I think so, too. So, If you want to follow us on social media, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. We are Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out, A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. We're also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And then if you want to check out some of our movie reviews on Letterboxd, you can do that. It is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, C-I-N-E Adventure. You can also send us an email at robandtonyscinematicadventure@gmail.com. The and, once again, is spelled out, A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast, but send us an email. Let us know what you thought of Batman Forever. Do you love it? Is it your favorite Batman movie? Do you disagree with us that it is unfairly tainted by Batman and Robin? Do you think that it is as bad as Batman and Robin? Whatever you think, let us know. We want to hear from you. You know, what do you think the next Batman movie we should do is? Do you think that we made a good choice doing this movie for a tribute episode to Val Kilmer? I think we did.
I think we did too.
You know, or just what other movies do you think we should do on the podcast? Let us know. We want to hear from you. But if you enjoy what you're hearing, then go to our social media, give us a like and a follow, go to your favorite podcasting app wherever you're listening to us and hit that subscribe button, give us a good rating, a good review, comment on our stuff. You know, that's how we move up in the standings and the search and the recommendations, all that stuff. And we want you to help us find more listeners, find more people that want to listen to us talk about these movies that we love. And so next time, we are going to be doing the movie that we were originally going to be doing for this episode before the untimely death of Val Kilmer. And that movie is sort of the most recent reintroduction of Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. He's back. I'm thinking he's back.
Yes, with John Wick. Everybody keeps asking me if I'm back. And you know what? Yeah, I think I'm back. Yeah, so we are going to be talking about John Wick next time. One of the greatest action movies in recent years, and really one of the greatest action movies of all time, I would say. So join us next time for John Wick.